All right. Gonna wait for a few people to jump on. How's everybody doing on this Sunday evening, Sunday morning, or Monday morning for some of you? All out of bubble gum. Most definitely. All right, folks, so I have my music in the background, and if it's bothering you, if it's too loud, just let me know. And that's not me trying to be a people pleaser. I'm just trying to be considerate and whatnot. I just like to have some music going on. So, but how's everybody doing today on this Sunday? Figured I'd just jump on here just sporadically and take some of your questions. I'm going to do some phone calls as well. We're going to try to do that. I think last time we had some technical difficulties. It was on my part. The plug wasn't all the way in on my device. So. Nonetheless, just going to wait for a few people to jump on. And how's everybody doing? What's going on in the world today? In the decoding world, what is going on with everybody? And if somebody can just give me some feedback and let me know how my voice is. Is it loud and clear? How's this transmission? Can everybody see really good? I'm going to try a few different things tonight. Here in Mexico, I'm going to reduce the size of my screen. I'm going to be sharing my screen because we're going to be doing some answering of your questions, and that's probably going to be involving some looking at some of their websites. So I'm going to try to reduce my screen down and then enlarge a web browser and see how that works. All right, Tam, thank you so much. Double Helix, what's up, Ryan? Awesome. Cool, just making sure, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining me tonight. Could have been anywhere tonight, but you decided to come on here. So I appreciate that. And so I got my cards ready, folks, in case you have a question about yourself. If you want to know what the most important thing for you to focus on in your life right now, we can pull some cards for you and give you some answers. So let's go through some of your Jordan Kennedy. Finished the Vatican video. Great work. Thank you so very much, folks. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. This Vatican video is exploding, in my numbers anyway. It got a lot of views really quickly, which I anticipated that it would. Because we're at that breaking point now where I think people are realizing that that control method is starting to wear down and that wall is crumbling. And as they say, empires fall. And I believe that empire is falling. So I appreciate each and every one of you for watching that. And that's just another part of, it's going to be another kind of piece of my Architect of the Universe Decoded Part 3 coming out, because the Vatican has a lot to do with that. I mean, the Bible itself has a lot to do with that, no matter which version that you use. And it's just really fascinating when you syncretize all these layers into one and you realize that, when these are my opinions and truths, but folks, we are living in duality, and we're down in the hole in duality. And whatever created this reality, I feel, is a game. I'm currently decoding the game Minecraft. It's upcoming in my queue of decodes, and it's the most popular game of all time. And that game is actually a part of a game called SimCity, which came out in 1989. And the guy who created that, his name's William Wright. That's going to be included in this upcoming decode of Minecraft. And folks, I personally feel that we're living inside of a video game. And that's the macro to our micro. And then, of course, when we sit in the macro position, mankind, and we use, our keyboards to create our own code and software, and we end up putting it on a screen, a television screen, a video screen, and we go into that reality. That's our microcosm. And so these are fractals. And we are in control of whatever we type on the computer. The artificial intelligence that we are creating, we're the macro of that micro. And so these video games that have come out, which are getting more and more advanced, and they're becoming more and more real because we're getting closer to the source, so to speak. And so we're the macro to the micro, and when we type things in with code and we write video games in software, like I'm using the YouTube software, someone had to write the code for that in order for it to work correctly, and all the layers that I'm using right now. And so that's the micro to our macro. But there's something beyond our reality that created our micro. It's their micro, and they're our macro. So it's, you could call it the God or the divine, but the architect, whatever created this reality is running this reality. It's completely running it. And that's why when I show all of you through the 130 plus videos that I have now, I'm just reading some of these comments that are hidden. I don't know why. But when we, I lost my train of thought now, but nonetheless, folks, I believe we're in a game and we're being controlled remotely. I don't know how much free will we have, but the videos that I'm coming out with and continually coming out with, the Vatican was the other day, the Truman Show, the Matrix, everything is coded and man's not coding it. Man is just the expressor or the actor of the blueprint or the script. I lived in Los Angeles for many, many years, and I've been in some movies and done some of that stuff. Nothing that you would ever recognize me in, but nonetheless, I know what goes into creating a movie. I have friends that are producers and whatnot, and they have to create a storyline. So you have the writer of the movie, and that goes maybe into a book, and then of course a lot of movies are made from books, but the screenplay goes to the producer, and then they cast the movie, and all the actors and actresses get called in and they do their auditions, and then they get chosen by whoever ends up deciding upon who comes in and becomes the main actors and the extras and all that kind of stuff. And then the actor and actresses have to read their script. There's a script and it's the screenplay, and they have to read that script. You got, read the script, just read your lines, just act out your lines. And I feel that we as human beings are exactly living in that same kind of existence. Except it doesn't seem like we're reading off a script, because we wake up every day and I'm going to have pizza today, or I'm going to have a salad today, or I'm going to go for a walk in the mountains today, or I'm going to go on vacation next week. And so it seems that we have all this free will. It appears that way, but I feel because of the decodes that I'm showing all of you great people out there, you're seeing with your own two eyes, using logic and discernment, that the code is so tightly woven and there's so many moving parts to the code that how would it be possible for man would never get anything done. They would constantly have to be, preparing for the future. And in order to code it to control people, they would have to literally sit down and consciously be looking at every angle. And every time we introduce a new layer, folks, for instance, I like using these cards right here, the medicine deck, which came out in 1988 by a group of Native Americans that have nothing to do with computer simulations, have nothing to do with, quantum computers, and has nothing to do with NASA and all the people all the groups that people are supposedly deceiving us from. But these I can syncretize in any layer that I choose through the methods that we're all using, whether it be pi, whether it be prime numbers, square numbers, hexagonal numbers. Any of these layers I can syncretize these cards in, which came out in 1988, and I can show with the symbols of the cards and the titles of the cards and the numbers that man could never code this. It's just an extension of the code. In 1988, this came out as an extension to the code. And it ends up getting syncretized with everything that previously outdated that particular system. So it's just really fascinating when you can really look at that layer and say, okay, well, if we're being controlled remotely, then, what is it that we're supposed to be doing? Well, it seems to be like you have no idea that you're actually being controlled remotely. So what you just continue to keep living through your code. The very most important thing that I feel all of us need to do is understand or understand or discover our own cosmic codes. And it's not just a one-stop shop with knowing what your cards of illumination are. Your birthday card, your spirit card, you have a phoenix card, you have a soul card, you have a planetary ruling card. If you fancy this system, I can plug you into my friend Sharon. She lives right next door here in Mexico. She's been reading the cards for over 40 years. She has classes on just the cards. So if you want to learn how to read the cards, I can plug you in to that connection. And the next time she has a class, you can take that class. But it's the very one thing that you should be doing, folks, is knowing your code, discovering your code. Because I feel like, if we did lose our memory coming down here, if that's really the way it works, like we get thrown down here in the upside down world and we literally forget why we came down here. Well, I think part of the game is to discover what the hell you're here for, what your power is. Because folks, I can clearly tell you that I am completely coded and scripted. That's a fact. Everything that I do is absolutely calculated. I could show you some things that would blow your mind. If I were to sit down with you, it would take me a few hours to show you all my particular code. But there's nobody, there's no Mason, there's no Jesuit, there's no secret society that's controlling me. Not running my code, not controlling my existence. They're not trying to pull the woolly over my eyes. They're certainly not mocking me, and I'm not mocking them. This is real common sense and logic here, folks. And so when you start to observe the game of life and you spread all the moving parts, all the players out on the field, and it's like taking a puzzle. If you ever made a puzzle, you take all the pieces out of the box, the way I was taught, and then flip all the pieces over and spread them all out, and then you start to put them all together into the puzzle, right? So if you take every single moving piece on the board in this game of life, all the players, all the organizations, all the entities, all the animals, the animal kingdom, the bacterial kingdom, the fungi kingdom, all these layers, and you spread them all out, you'll see that they all have a certain connection to them, and they all come into the puzzle, and they all come together when you place them all together, and they all have a specific code to them, and they all have a specific design to them, and they all have a specific job to do. And if it's obviously animals, a lot of them are running on what appears to be instincts. Like a shark instinctively knows that it's going to go after certain fish when it gets hungry. And it may be the stomach, the ghrelin is what causes hunger pains. Maybe that's the reason why the shark starts to go hunt other fish or animals, because it's a predator. It's built as a predator. We don't get, the reality that we live in is all predator prey, folks. That's what it is. It's all predator prey down here. And I think that, we all have our own jobs to do. And the most important thing for each and every single one of you listening here to this transmission should be doing is decoding yourself. Because now we're in the age of Aquarius, or it appears to be that way. This age is all about I know thyself. That's what because Aquarius is the water bearer, and the whole purpose of that is to pour information out onto the world. The water means information. And that's why the internet is here, folks. If you use your common sense and logic, you realize that Aquarius is here, and with that is a component of the internet. And that's why you can literally, within seconds, you can log on to the internet and find any answer to almost any problem, to any question. That wasn't possible 20 or 30 years ago. Because we didn't have the technology, we didn't have the internet, and we didn't have the access. I'm plugging into over 50 viewers right now, thanking each and every one of you for jumping on tonight. But I can connect to each and every one of you from all over the world. How's that possible? Because the technology is allowing us to do that. We couldn't do that before. We could never do that before. We were having to write letters and lick stamps and send it in the mail and have the postmaster deliver my letter to you across the world. And then it went into the rotary phone and the phone, the landlines, and it was able to connect us. And now we're using cell phones. This little And you know, it's interesting because I was reading a friend of mine, he took like an 8-month hiatus from social media. He's a friend from Los Angeles, and he's a runner. And he had this great message, and I was watching it today. And thank you for your donation, Spryo. Appreciate it. Thank you so very much. 1111, I love it, which means past, present, and future, by the way. But nonetheless, my friend took this hiatus from social media, and he's saying he's trying to connect back to the earth. And he had made a point that I never even kind of observed. I think I may have looked at it before, but I don't remember. So because I miss things, you know, but like this device is called a cell phone. And if you go to prison, you get put in a cell. Cell phone, prison cell. We have cells in our body. It's really interesting when you look at where our technology is going and where we're going, folks. We're literally going internally. We're going inside this little device, and which is becoming smaller and smaller, even though cell phones that are big now are popular, but we're going further and further inward. We're knowing thyself. And maybe it's because we are a computer. Maybe we are a computer. A lot of people believe that we're in a simulation, myself included. I just don't know how that simulation really, really works, because, you know, it seems pretty damn real with the feelings that we have, the senses that we use. It seems really, really tightly woven as a real thing down here in duality. And if we're going inward and we're actually, because everybody's like this now, you know, I said this on my last transmission. Everybody's like this. I mean, if you look down today, you'll see, or I shouldn't say look down, but if you look around, people are just stuck in their phones. What's the natural evolution of mankind? Going into the machine. I mean, take your phone away now, folks. Take your technology away. What would you do? I know it's interesting because I don't know what I would do because I'm so into the technology. I love technology. I'm an Aquarian, so I mean, naturally, most Aquarians that I know are into technology. But it's the information. We're in about the you know, it's one of the 4 fixed signs in astrology: the ox, lion, eagle, man. It's the man. You know, and what would you do without your technology today? If you had to get rid of your cell phone, if you had to go back to using, you know, straight up cash, hard cash instead of, I mean, people are so resistant on cryptocurrency, yet, you know, you've been using digital currency for the longest time, because who the heck here carries cash? I mean, mostly everybody uses a credit card, which is a square card, a square, and they put it into the machine. The machine just digitally reduces the money out of their account. So they've already programmed human beings to evolve into the digital age because you've been using a credit card or a debit card for a very long time. That's the natural evolution of where we're going, folks. I mean, it's a no-brainer. If you look at it, unless there's some major disruptor that completely changes everything in our life right now, and it eliminates the internet, and we go back to the Stone Age or the prehistoric. Some people think that's what's going to happen. That we're gonna move back to living off the land. Maybe it would be a hell of a shocker if we did. Some people just couldn't handle that transition. I certainly wouldn't want to. I mean, I like going out there and getting my fingers dirty, and I enjoy planting flowers and gardening and picking stuff, and I like doing all that kind of stuff. I love being in nature, but at the same time, I love coming and using my technology. I love, you know, I'm a graphic designer, so I've built plenty of websites. As most of you know, all my videos, I do almost all of my own stuff, pretty much, my graphics and my video editing, and how to use all the Adobe suites and all that stuff. So I enjoy using that. That's the way I express my art. Some people use canvas and a paintbrush, which is a step, kind of before technology with the graphics, but now we're getting into computers, and that's the natural evolution, folks, of where we're going. We're going towards the digital age, which is, I feel, is Aquarius, and I don't think that we're going to have any break anytime soon until if you fancy astrology, I don't think that's going to break until we move into the age of Capricorn, which would be Earth. because we're moving into the age of Aquarius, which is air. And air is related to the word, because when we speak, air comes out of our mouth. That's why it says in theology, God was the Word and the Word was God, because it's air. It's speaking things into existence. I'm talking to you right now and I'm speaking magic spells. This is magic, by the way, folks. That's the most basic foundational expression. I am speaking magical spells to you. And you're either going to accept what I say or you're going to reject what I say. But I'm speaking magic to you right now. The entire world is built on magic because we're all speaking pretty much. And if if you can't speak, if you're using sign language, that's the way you express your magic. But we all use it. And so the word manifests things into play. But before the spoken word has to be the thought. That precedes the spoken word, is the thought. So you must think it first and then speak it into existence. Hey, I want to do business with you. Hey, let me build you this website. Hey, do you want to start this humanitarian effort? Hey, I want to date you. Hey, I think you're good looking. That's all a matter of manifestations. And what's really fascinating is you see Aquarius is all about air, and the opposite house, which I showed in the Vatican decode, the direct opposite of Aquarius is Leo the lion. And here in the Tropic of Cancer, of the northern hemisphere of the equator, Aquarius is the dead of winter. It's the coldest month, typically. It's contraction. It's going inward. And then in the Tropic of Capricorn, it's going outward. It's the expansion, because there's summertime there. But then here in the northern hemisphere, the sign of Leo, the 5th house of astrology, Aquarius is the 11th. You have the 11 and the 5. Aquarius and Leo are just the polar opposites of one another. Expansion and contraction. And since we're in the age of Aquarius, it's all a matter of I know thyself. There are no more secrets anymore. That's why, that's why all the things are coming to light right now. That's why, I believe that, my destiny, my personal destiny, is part of it is exposing the secrets that were once secret, and they're not made to be secret anymore. Everything's coming out into the light right now. Everything's being exposed. There are no more secrets anymore, folks. None. That's why you don't need to join a secret society to learn all this stuff. All you got to do is go on the internet, and there's tons of people online that have amazing expressions that, I learn from, because I'm a student of life. Even though I'm a teacher and a student. We all are. Some of us end up becoming more than just, the basic levels of things, but nonetheless, we're all students of life. That's why, your eyes, the eyeball, these two eyes right here that I have, these are your natal charts. We have 2 natal charts in astrology. The astrology wheel is your eyeball. It's a snapshot of when you were born. Since we have 2 eyes, one eye is going to be your natal chart, your personal blueprint of when you were born at specific time, specific day, and a specific year. And then the current chart would be your other eye. 2 natal charts, and this one would be constantly moving. That's why the natal chart's round and your eye's round. That's how astrology works. We are the micro of the macro. There's a reason why there's 88 constellations. Same reason why there's 88 keys on a piano. Because music and the stars are harmoniously connected together. And we're the micro of the macro. And in essence, these stars and planets that are outside of our reality, the macro, they are the controllers of us in some way, shape, or form. And I don't know really how to express anything more on those lines. I guess I'm just going to leave it on a very basic level for all of you to, and again, you got to make the truth your own. I'm not here to force anything upon you. My videos, I clearly state in the beginning of my videos, these are my opinions and truths. So you got to make the truth your own, folks. You got to make the truth your own. Let me go to some of these comments. And again, folks, thank you so much for joining in today. Listen, I want to say something to all of you, and please pay attention to what I'm about to tell you. And this is in no direct towards anybody, but there are some people out there that come on my channel and they just nitpick some of the stuff I do. And I want to just clearly tell all of you, I'm not here to people please. You may not like my music in the background. You may not like the way I raise my voice, the way I get passionate. You may not like the way I call people folks. You may not like that. But I don't, to be honest with you, and I'm just being very raw, and I'm an Aquarian, I don't care. I'm not here to please everybody. I'm here to get my information out. Do you think I'm calling up a certain person who plays music? Like, I don't like country western music. I'm not a fan of it, but I'm not calling up a country western fan or going on their channel and be like, yeah, you shouldn't be singing that way. That's obnoxious, or that's annoying for you to do that. I mean, who does that? Why would you do that? I understand there are going to be people that are going to give me thumbs downs. That's all fine and dandy. I don't believe in 5-star ratings because time will decay that. It only lasts so long. You're going to get people that are not going to like what you have to say. They're going to be jealous. You're going to get haters. It's all good. It's part of the process of being out there. If you don't want to get any kind of persecution, folks, then don't put yourself out there. Go live inside of your little box and just hide away if that's what you want to do, or don't put yourself on the world stage. If you put a comment out on social media, you better believe you're going to get people out there that are going to give you their opinion on what they think, whether you ask for it or not. The minute you press publish or you post something on social media, it's open season, folks. So you better be ready for someone to come and say something to you. And then I believe, and it's been a challenge for me, I can be authentic with all of you and tell you the challenge is not responding to people in a mannerism where you're like, oh, you're completely this and that and da-da-da-da-da and getting angry and then having a reaction to that kind of person that kind of maybe pushes your buttons a little bit. Because if someone's pushing your buttons, that's something that you have to start working on. That's personal development. That's something that has really nothing to do with your specific code. That's just the way human beings are built. Human beings are built with one thing in common, and that is we all want to look good. If you've ever been to Landmark, that's one of their trademark statements is life is about looking good. And I'll give you a great analogy, folks. Just the other day, last week, I went to the dentist. I'm down here in Mexico, and and I got to get some work done on my teeth. And I go to the dentist, and what do you do? All of you have gone to the dentist. What do you do before you go to the dentist? You're brushing your teeth, flossing. We all do it. The majority of people that go to the dentist will brush the shit out of their teeth, floss it. Why? Scrape their tongues. Why do we do that? Because when you sit in that chair and the dentist takes his little light and his little whatever he does, or she, they're going to see everything that's going on in your mouth. And you know why you want to brush your teeth and floss it? You don't want to look bad. You want your teeth to be as clean as possible. I don't want to, that person can't see all my stuff going on. It's embarrassing. That's what life is, folks. Life is about looking good. That's what it is all about. Every one of us that's what we're programmed. We don't want to look bad. So a lot of people will be out there trying to, and I've been guilty of this, trying to prove others wrong just so you can be right. But my great friend Johnny, who lives in Los Angeles, he had said something to me that has always stuck in my mind. And he says, do you want to be right or do you want to win? Well, obviously the answer to that is I want to win. I want to be winning. So you have to obviously relinquish that reality of trying to be right and trying to prove others wrong. And, and it's challenging. And then of course, calling people names. And I don't resonate with that kind of stuff. I try so hard not to do that. Calling people idiots and putting people down. And folks, if you realize how this game of life works, everybody's just doing their job. So when you sit there and say negative connotations towards somebody, that's your own projection of who you are, looking yourself in the mirror. You don't like something about yourself because there's no competition. It's like they're doing their job, you're doing your job. And some people they're not going to be on your level of education. So they're going to seem like they don't know what they're talking about. And that may be the truth. because we're all at different levels. There are a lot of things I have no idea what I'm doing. I've been wrong so many times. If you look at my older decodes of this channel, Decode Your Reality, down towards the bottom, the stuff's outdated, and I was wrong in a lot of the areas that I was presenting myself. I continually make mistakes. A lot of the things that I'm posting online are completely theoretical. But with mistakes, as we look at them as mistakes, because there are no such thing as mistakes, but as when we do something that is not close to the mark, because, the word sin means missing the mark, like in archery, you miss the mark, you don't hit the bullseye. But when we end up not hitting the bullseye, we get closer and closer to getting to that bullseye. But when you're putting people down, I see a lot of people, I'm not going to mention anybody's names, but I see a lot of people putting people down and crucifying them and calling them names and it's just, I don't resonate with that. I just don't. I feel that the people that are doing that, if there is such a thing as karma, they have some heavy karma that's going to be coming their way, and they're going to have to pay for that if that's really the truth. So anyway, folks, let me go to some of these comments, and I appreciate all of you that are watching today. Again, you guys could have been anywhere tonight or this morning, wherever you are in the world, but you decided to come on here and join me, and I can't thank you enough. Okay, so statistics on the average daily screen time for different populations. Trying to duplicate. Denise, you want me to decode? Okay, so folks, let me just let me respond to Denise here. If you're interested in a reading by me, or if you have a specific person, like I have a Rolodex of people, I do readings. My most popular reading takes about 3 to 4 hours, and then I follow up with emails, and you have a friend for life. So you literally have somebody you can, contact and ask questions. We're friends. I'm all about friendship rather than acquaintances. But my mid-grade reading takes about 3 to 4 hours. We record the entire session, and I give 100% money back guarantee. I haven't had anybody come back and want their money back, so I stand on my confidence. My record so far is 100%. Will that last? I don't know, but that's what I give to everybody to make you feel absolutely comfortable. So if you're interested in a reading, just send me an email and I'll send you my website, which is, I'm currently transitioning over into a new brand. And if you're interested in a reading, I'll be sending you my new websites. It's not completed yet, but the page that offers all my readings, the 3, I'll send you that page. So just send me an email. My email is decodeyourreality@gmail.com, and I'll send it to you. If you're interested in this t-shirt that I have here, it's from my sponsor called thehealersproject.com, and you can go on there and there's a whole bunch of t-shirts. I've designed quite a few of them myself because I'm a graphic designer. So they're on there as well, and you can support this mission. Okay, there's coffee mugs, which are cool. I like the coffee mugs myself because they're inexpensive and they have some really cool designs if you're a coffee drinker. But this t-shirt, the yin yang, it's on the website, and you can get that if you're interested in that. So just wanted to kind of get that out of the way. If you have a question, let me just throw that up there. There we go. So folks, if you have a question, what is it? What's your question? I'm going to take phone calls here in a little bit, but before I do that, in case some of you want to call in on the WhatsApp number, I want to be very straight up and forward with you. I'm not here to chit chat because of time and all of you trying to get on and trying to get questions answered. And have a question, please have a question. Maybe it's something that you want to talk about. Maybe you want to talk about a decode that you're doing and some numbers that you've found that are interesting. Maybe you want to talk about a decode of somebody else, another channel. Maybe it's something you want to talk about of what I've thrown out there on my channel. Maybe it's a suggestion on a decode. Now you can imagine, folks, I get a lot of requests on the decodes people wanting me to do, and it's just like I'm getting hammered by people asking me to do, and it's tough. And I apologize if I don't respond to you. If I miss your comment, I apologize if I don't, get to your decode. A lot of you have some great decodes. I got to sneeze, but hold on one second, folks. No, but a lot of you have great decodes. I know I'm going to sneeze. A lot of great ideas. I have so many videos that are upcoming right now. I have Minecraft is going to be the next one that's going to be coming out. I have Lucy, the movie Lucy, which is tied into the cartoon called Peanuts, because there's a character in there named Lucy Van Pelt. So that ties right into the movie Lucy, which ties into Lucifer. It's all tied together. That's why the man could never code this, folks. It'd be just stupid to think that. It's all organic. I have a decode coming up on the Guinness Book of World Records. I have a decode coming up on, of course, Architect of the Universe Part 3. I have a decode coming up on cryptocurrency. Let me tell you what else I got, folks. See, I put them in. What I do is it's hard for me to choose, so I put them in a bag, and then I just pull one out, and that's the one I work on, because I have so many that I have the longest golf drive coming out. That's completely scripted. Infinity, I have that one coming out. I have 911, the emergency code that the United States calls for emergencies, 911, the origination of that, why it was created, who dialed the first number, where it was connected to. Folks, it's all organic. Too many moving parts. Got that coming out. I have the more of the I am, using the alphabet and the numbers. I have the Game of Life coming out. That's going to be coming out as well. What else do I have here in my bag? I have Halloween. You know the movie Halloween with Michael Myers? Notice the name. Michael Myers. What's Jesus known as? Archangel Michael. So I have the movie Halloween with Donald Pleasance, who, some of you have watched the 1968 segment from the BBC called The Newsbenders. And the guy that starred in that show was Donald Pleasance, who plays the psychiatrist of Michael Myers in Halloween. Coincidence? No, folks, because it's all coded and it's all organic. So I have Halloween coming out, and then I have, what was the last one that I wanted to show you? Jupiter Ascending. I have that movie. That one's scripted and rigged too, just like Matrix. Go, if you haven't watched my Matrix Decoded, folks, I mean, that one completely can prove that it's all scripted and rigged and it's all organic, that the man's not doing anything but other than living out the script like an actor. Like the screenplay gets written and then the director says, just read your lines. Don't try to use your own lines. Just read what it says on the piece of paper and then act it out. That's a conscious way of being an actor. I feel we're all actors and actresses. And the script is coming through that little voice in your head, that little voice talking right now. Right now, that little voice is talking to you. And even though I can't prove that it is in control of you, there's no way for you to prove that you are in control of it. But of course, when we do the decodes and show all the connections and the synchronicities, my support showing that we are not in control of it is pretty loud and clear. And again, I'm not here to force it on you, folks. You got to make the truth your own. It's not my job to, like they say, lead the horse to water, but can't make it drink. I'm not here to make you drink the water. I'm going to show you my pond, my lake. If you like it, if you want to go sailing on it, if you want to drink the water from it, then let's roll, dive in, watch more. Some people come on and they just judge me by one video. And I'm like, man, I got 100 plus more videos. Go watch some more. That's if you want to. I don't know. Maybe you just don't like my style. It all comes down to, but again, what prevents people from, not going further? The voice in your head. There's a guy, I can't remember his name is, but he says, everything in life is a negotiation. Oh, it's called Masterclass. Maybe you've seen the commercial on YouTube. And it's so true. Everything's a negotiation. He's like, if you want to walk across the street, you're going to negotiate in your mind whether or not you're going to jump forward and walk across the street. if you're going to go to Starbucks and get a coffee, you negotiate whether or not you want to stop and get out of your car and walk into Starbucks and pay them whatever it is you pay them for whatever you're going to get. Everything's a negotiation. Today, when you decided to jump on to my transmission here, you saw it pop up in your screen, probably if you're a subscriber, and you're like, oh, do I want to listen to what Logan has to say tonight? That's a negotiation. But is that negotiation controlled by you, or is it something controlled outside of you? As what I like to call our handlers. You know, like when you walk your dog, you handle your dog, and dog is G-O-D spelled backwards. You're the macro to the micro of the dog. The dog's the micro, you're the macro. Well, just because we don't have collars or harnesses and we don't have a leash attached to us, what makes you think we're not being handled by something? And when I come out with this decode on Minecraft and SimCity, that's the microcosm. That will prove, to support, in my eyes, that man's not doing anything, folks. We're just, SimCity is building cities. That's what SimCity is. You build cities. Simulation, SimCity. Okay. So let's get to some of these comments if I can. Please define what is organic and what is scripted by the Jesuits. Listen, folks, why is everybody so hot to trot on the Jesuits? I don't know. I think if you can just let go of that idea, they're doing their job. You know, they're doing their job, and they're scripted. They're controlled. They're not running it. They're just playing out their part. Go one step further than the Jesuits. They're just a middleman, like we all are. We're all middlemen. You know, when you know the thing, like, I want to cut the middleman out there taking my money. You want to go right to the source. Like when you go to a broker, like an insurance broker, would you rather go to the broker, or would you rather go right to the insurance company to get your insurance? Now, sometimes you get a better price with a broker, but you want to cut the middleman out. See, we're middlemen, folks. Jesuits are middlemen. They're not in control. They may appear to be in control, but they're being controlled. So if you say, well, the Jesuits are scripting something, well, yeah, okay, maybe they're scripting something, but you see, the macro to their micro is controlling them. So you have to really get that through your mind. The macro to the micro is where it's at, and they're all fractals of that. From my research anyway. And I don't really know how to put it to each and every one of you. I mean, if you want to follow people that continually ingrain in your brain that these people are mocking you and these people are doing their job. Like if you own a pool and the pool guy comes to your house to clean it, what does he do? Do you think he's trying to do anything to get anything beyond what he's here to? He's there to clean your pool. That's what his job is. Now, I know cleaning a pool and then, maybe going out and murdering people, because of course people get murdered all the time. Absolutely. And you could say, well, the Jesuits are murdering people. Maybe, but there are plenty of other people that are not Jesuits that are murdering people. What about them people? Are they trying to mock you? A serial killer, is that, are they trying to mock you? Are they trying to pull the woolly over your eyes? No, that's the way they're coded. Macro to micro, folks. It's macro to micro. All right, so let's go back to some more. I think Zach is at fault for keeping people indoctrinated. Listen, Zach's doing his job. Really, folks, the best suggestion, if you want to know, since we're all on here talking, the best thing that you can do is not judge, observe with neutrality, and realize that, in this case, Zach, he's just doing his job. He's doing what he feels best. Who am I to tell him? Do I agree with everything he says? Absolutely not. But that doesn't mean he's doing what he feels is right is wrong. I mean, he's doing what he feels is right. The Jesuits are doing what they feel is right. The Pope is doing what he feels is right. Donald Trump is doing what he feels is right. ABC News, Fox News, CNN, they're all doing what they feel is the right thing to do. And of course, we look at these entities and they're just trying to screw you over. The mainstream news, they're all trying to program in you. That's their job. The game is designed that way. Your job is to discover that that's their job and then say, I don't want to be a part of your job anymore. And then try to do something about it. That to me is waking up. Is knowing that you're in a game, knowing what the rules are, knowing how it operates, and realizing that everybody here has been written a code to do a certain job. It's kind of like, scientists are constantly finding new animals and insects and stuff. Have they always been there, or are they just evolving? Or is whatever's writing this code, the macro, outside of our reality, maybe it's programming new animals into the code, and then then this new animal or insect pops into our reality, and then scientists say, oh, we've never found that before. That's new. That's possible. This game never stops. It's infinite. It keeps going and going. And what matters most is, of course, the now moment, but you have that infinity, and that contains the past, present, and future. That's how it works. And the game constantly changes and shifts. Empires rise, empires fall. Bosses, folks, I had talked about this with Santos. We did a live, and I had said, maybe whatever created this reality, and that's the boss, maybe that boss's boss doesn't like what that boss is doing, and is like, you know what, you're fired. You're out of here. You're going to be replaced with a new boss. Happens all the time in our world. CEOs, they step down, they get fired. Chief financial officers get caught in scandals, whatever. However it goes down, constantly people are being advanced. People are getting promoted. Why would we think that whatever created this reality is anything different than that? I mean, supposedly, if you study theology and you believe all that kind of stuff, there's angels and demons doing their job. That's what they do. And folks, listen, I followed the art of black magic. I mean, I studied it quite a bit, and I didn't get into like doing seances and rituals and conjuring up anything like that. But there's a guy on YouTube. His name's E.A. Coetting. And he's got plenty of books out. He's got a massive amount of followings on YouTube. It's called Become a Living God. And it's all a matter of conjuring up all these demons. And he has no problem calling them that. Lucifuge and Lucifer and Satan and all these titles and Baal. And there's so many of them. Are they real? Well, these groups of people that follow them, they think they're real, and supposedly they're getting powers from them and all that kind of stuff. Now, I haven't gone forward, and I mean, I could contact them, and you can hire Mr. Coetting to do a ritual for you. He'll do it for you, and then you can get involved in that game if you so choose. And I don't know. I don't know what the guy's personal life's all about. I have no idea if his life is amazing, if it's a mess, if he's, and people say, oh, the guy sold his soul, and but that's what they do. And I followed that, and I went down that rabbit hole. A lot of people won't go down that rabbit hole because they think it's scary. But it's just a different fragment of our reality. And then, you realize, folks, my life is completely scripted. If you just take the example of just me, Logan, and you decode my name and my birthday and my life path and my human design and my personality type and my color type and my sun sign and my moon sign, then go to the Vatican, go look at that. I'm a Libra rising in the Vedic, but in the Western, I'm a Scorpio rising. So you have this system and that system, and then the cards and my cards of illumination and my tarot and, my code and the day I was born on. I was born on the 35th day of the year. Do you know what the number 35 means? If you don't know what the number 35 means, then that has no relevance to you. Like, you couldn't really see or understand my code. But if you know what the 35 means, like I do, it has a lot of significance to my code, my specific code. The latitude, longitude that I was born on. I was born in a town called Putnam, Connecticut. Putnam equals 28, Lucifer equals 28. The latitude, longitude of Putnam, Connecticut is 71 degrees north and 41 degrees east, or 41 degrees west. 71 and 41, 741 are Lucifer's numbers. Does that make me Lucifer? You got to go beyond just the numbers. That's why you can't just take gematria or numerology and be like, oh, there it is. This equals the same as the word kill, so that must mean that means kill. Folks, it's a dead end. It's watered down. That's on its way out. I can promise you. Those people that are decoding that way, you're just, connecting words to numbers. And when they use the multiple ciphers, the reverse ones and all that, it's cool to do that. But every time you add on a different cipher, you water it down. You make it even more complicated. Try using one. That's what I did for years. I just used the Chaldean. That was the only cipher I used. It's much more challenging to use just one cipher in numerology if you're a decoder. It's very challenging to get your narration down. But I did that. And then when I added on the other ones, I bolted them on. Then I can see how they fractal out. It's like a tree branch. So ultimately, and the older part of me was like, I think the reverse ones are ridiculous. And to a certain degree, I still think that's true. But I can see the code now. I can look at the reverse ones. I know how to use them. I mean, all of them have like the square cipher. Why are not people using the square cipher? You got to know when to use it. We're in the box. See, we're in the cube, folks. We're in this cube right here. This cube, we're inside of it. 3-dimensional hypercube. So you got to use the square cipher, and you can't just throw any word in there and expect to have a miraculous finding and be like, there it is. This is what it means. That's not the way this game works, folks. You must be able to delegate and realize, and then first and foremost, again, gematria, it's a dead end because that's just basic decoding. You got to become a numerologist. You need to know what the number 1 means. You got to know what is number. Okay, let's start with that, folks. Everything comes from the 0, by the way. The 0 is the cosmic egg. It's I would probably say it's the androgynous. And then from the 0, which is, what we're all making up, the sine and cosine waves inside the circle of pi. Then we have the number 1. What is the number 1? It's the first number. It means fire, leadership. The seed planter. If you're born on the 1st, if you're born on the 10th, if you're born on the 28th, you keep those numbers. If you're born on the 28th, you actually work for the number 2 and 8. Most people that are decoding today, they'll just, it's the number 1. People really want to just reduce things down really, really fast and just automatically go right to that number 1. And that's it's like someone calling you what you're really not. I mean, you're a 28, you're born on the 28th, you work for the number 2 and 8. I look at everything like they have personalities because everything's consciousness. So numbers have a consciousness to them, just like you do. So if you're born on the 28th, you work for the number 2 and 8, and then all the energy that you conjure up with that number 2 and the number 8, you give to the number 10, and then that gives to the number 1. So ultimately, you ladies and gentlemen that are born on the 28th, you work for ultimately the number 1, and you're basically a leader. Like if you're born on the 1st and then you're born on the 28th, it's not the same. If you're born on the 1st, you're just like a natural born. Your job is a leader, to become a leader. Now that doesn't mean if you're born on the 28th, you can't be a leader. But you encompass the number 2 and the number 8, and you got to know what those numbers mean. You can't just say, it's the 28 and it reduces to the number 1, and that doesn't work that way, folks. We got to be authentic with the numbers and respect the numbers. So the number 1 is leadership. The number 2 means duality. It's Taurus the bull. Taurus is run in the 2nd house. If you bring in astrology, Taurus's lord is Venus and Taurus, the number 2. And that's related to the sacral in the Vedic, the sacral chakra, number 2. 2 means duality. 2 means procreation. Because women have the ovaries and the men have the testes, 2 of those. And that's how you procreate. Through the Taurus. If you look at the female reproductive system, it looks just like Taurus the bull, the skull. So that's number 2. Those of you that are born in the 2nd, you work better in groups. You're here to create something with groups of people probably. And there are other layers beyond that. Those of you that are born on the 3rd or are linked to the number 3, you're typically born with a very creative expression about yourself. 3 is related to the color yellow, the sun. Number 4, you're here to, it's the box, the cube. You're like a mason. A mason builds things, square, architects, engineers. You're here to leave something behind, to help build something. Those of you that are born with the number 5, or it leads to the 5, the number 5 is all about, the 5 is the most busiest number in numerology. It sits in the very dead center of the calculator or dial pad of the phone. If I were to take a pyramid and place it right over the top of the dial pad, the very tip of the pyramid, called the apex, it would go all the way down to the number 5. The number 5 is that's why, if you've seen the show The Umbrella Academy on Netflix, if you haven't seen it, you should check it out. But the stone cold killer, who's a teletransporter who time travels, his character's name is number 5. And so if you syncretize that, you realize you know why that is. You 5s are the busiest people. You can't sit still. You're here to really be kind of like that Jack, the Jack of all trades. If there was a Jack, it'd be the number 5. Those of you that are born on a 6, or they lead to the number 6, that's a number of mastery, the first master number. The world was created in 6 days. 6 in astrology is linked to our health, but it's the first master number in the tarot. It's the lover's card, which represents the pineal gland, and the number 6 is the pineal gland, which is all about changing paradigms. So those of you that are born on the 6, you're here to master something. And when you master something, I lose that loosely, but you're here to be a paradigm changer. And there are different layers to that. So you got to look at your astrology code and your blueprint and your numerology. Those of you that are born on the 7th or lead to the number 7, it's all about mysticism, and you're engrossed in the mystical side of things, and it pulls you in, and you really want to know more. 7 is the bridge between this world and the next world. So those of you that are born on the 7th or the 16th or the 24th or 25th, you give all your energy to the number 7. That's what you're all about. You got to know what the numbers mean in numerology. Those of you that have the relations to the number 8, which I have an 8 life path, I know all about the number 8. It's all about death and regeneration. That's what the infinity symbol is. It's past, present, and future. And it's kind of like I call it the trash can. It's Scorpio. And we're all kind of linked to that Scorpio through our spinal cords. We'll be coming out with something on that. So if you're born on the 8th or the 26th or the 17th, you end up servicing the number 8. And your life's going to be about death and regeneration. You're kind of that person who maybe is a natural born critic. You can pick out what's broken. You may be pessimistic, but it's your job. Folks, I'm really pessimistic, but it's my job. It's my job to point out what's broken. Am I not doing that through all my videos? I'm constantly putting out content that shows you how this game works and what doesn't work anymore. That's part of my job as Logan. And I have an 8 life path, which is in numerology, it's called your soul contract. It's tied to the Akashic records if you believe in that layer. And that means that if you believe in the Akashic records and you believe in past lives and reincarnation, well, your code was decided upon before you ever incarnated into this world and popped out of your mother's womb on whatever day and time and year that you were born into. So that number 8 is all about death and regeneration. It's planting new seeds and ripping the weeds out. Planting new seeds and ripping the weeds out, death and regeneration, which is what this entire world is based upon. The octagon. That's why, and if you watch my Vatican decode, folks, the octagon shape, it's an 8-sided polygonal shape. That's where the UFC comes in. That's the syncretization of the UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championship, which of course is linked to Rome. Rome started the Colosseum and the gladiators. Now we're in the UFC's in the octagon. The octagon is linked to the number 8 of death and regeneration. That's what this world is. That's why in the Vatican in St. Peter's Square they have the octagon, the points, the 8 points in that round circle there in St. Peter's Square. Because we're in the octagon, folks, which is linked to octopus. I showed this in the Vatican decode, which is the Lord of that is the number 9. The 8 and 9 come together, which end up becoming the number 17, which end up becoming the number 8 anyway, because the number 9, as we know, is a repeater number. And then those of you that are the number 9, or let me go back, and number 8 as well, you could become a philanthropist. You're here, if you're all about the number 8, you're here to really experience money and materialism, but you got to own that space. It's a tough layer to be in. Because you could amass a fortune being tied to that number 8, but 8 is death and regeneration. So you could lose it really quick. You could have ups and downs with your businesses and your partners and your friends and whatever you're doing in life. So you got to be conscious of that. And then if you're born on the 9th or the 18th or the 27th and you service the number 9, you're all about humanitarianism. 9 is all about humanitarianism. In the 9th house of astrology, it's the house of the higher mind. And it's the Hermit card, the old man on the mountain. So those of you born on the 9th, the 18th, or the 27th, you service the number 9. And you probably should be doing something that is in relation to humanitarianism. Whether you start your own humanitarian group, whether you go work within the confines of a humanitarian, maybe you go help the homeless, maybe you become an advocate in some way to help the world stage, but that's what the number 9 is all about. It's, you basically, the way I look at it is your code, you were given a specific code to really be very compassionate, to service the world in any way, shape, or form that you can. So you should be, in my opinion, you should go look for people that are born in the 8th or have 8 life paths, because they're the money makers. Or, everybody obviously can earn money, but I'm saying is, like, you go find somebody. That's why you should always know who you're going to hook up with. And, and that's coming, folks, is really knowing exactly who you're dealing with, who you're friends with. You should know all their cards. You should know their birthdays. You should know their zodiac signs, because when these people in your life start to show up, typically what we do is we're like, I don't like the way they do that. Well, they don't care. They're just living out their code. If we can just be accepting of people and realize that everybody that is living out their lives, they're just living out their code. And they're not living through my eyes, they're not living through your eyes, they're living through theirs. So as long as we can be accepting and not judge, that's how we're going to get into a forward progression of making this world a better place. And you are those that are born on the 9th or have a 9 life path, those humanitarians, you should be doing something in correlation to servicing the world. And again, that 9th house, if all of us have humanitarian space inside of our minds. And so if you look at your astrology chart, ladies and gentlemen, in your 9th house, which is linked to the 10th house, which is service, which is your midheaven and your service to the world. The 9th house is where your ideas of your service to the world are going to come into play. And if you have any planets there, you need to know what kind of energy is being expressed through those planets, because they're going to have some impact on your life. I like to look at when I do my readings, I tell people that the planets that are in your astrology wheel, wherever they're placed, that's your team. You're the coach, and those are your team players. And you got to know what a good coach knows what players need to be in certain positions. I mean, you don't send Tom Brady out on the field to go kick a field goal. That's not what he's good at. He's good at throwing and being a quarterback. So you got to know what way to handle some of these energies that are coming your way. You got to know, like, when they come around, Saturn being in a certain house gives off its energy. He's really going to slow things down, going to make you wait for it. You got to know where your Chiron is, your wound. You got to overcome that and patch all those holes up. That's part of your challenge and why you're here. So, folks, these are all just layers of who we are and why we're here. And that's why it's so important to really discover your cosmic blueprints on all layers. Some of you don't like to look at those kinds of things. Some of you would rather have the things created than the power to create. And that's okay. And remember, nothing's permanent. So what works for you right now may not work next year, and you're going to have to change the course of action to adjust with the world. And that's really what's going on right now. All right, so I've been rambling. Let me get to some of your questions. Numerical Lion asks, for how much do I charge for a reading? Well, I have 3 different readings. If you're interested in a reading, folks, just send me an email and I'll send you the link to my website, which has all my pricings on there. My email is decodeyourreality@gmail.com. And I'll send you my website. And it's like I said, folks, my website's under construction. I'm building it as I go. So some of my pages are not done, but my reading page is done. You can find out all there, and you can book stuff on there and all that stuff. All right. What are the impacts of someone born on the cusp? Well, I know somebody who was born on the cusp. I know a few people. And that just means that you got to read from both energies. Like, I have a friend who was born on September 21st. And this person is technically is a Virgo, but in the sense of being born on the cusp, because of the equinoxes, it's also a Libra. So you got to read from both. So there's no really kind of way to put this other than you got to read from Virgo and Libra. And you got to really find out which distinguishments will make up who you are, because we're all snowflakes. So you got to read that and go through all that kind of stuff. Okay, Moon Rock next year. Okay. (1971). Okay, well, folks, this gives me a good introduction to talk about this. This relates to all of you, and thank you for paying attention and being here tonight. I really appreciate each and every one of you. So let's get into the cycles. Now, there are many layers to cycles. Now, again, I'm going to show you this. This book right here is a book that my friend Sharon, the great card reader, has, and you can get. But it has a card chart for every year. Like, this is for when you're 25 years old. And all these cards, they move every time you change in age. And then there are 7-year cycles and all that kind of stuff. So she's more of the master at that. You know, I'm still learning the system. And of course, I have my own methodology tying into numerology, which she doesn't do, but she's really good at reading the cards. So I can put you in touch with her if you want to get a reading from her. But nonetheless, you have cycles with the cards. But really what I want to talk about is your cycle of life right now when it comes to your age. Now, I just turned 48. And what that means is I'm servicing the numbers 4 and the numbers 8. So the 4 means the square, the cube, the builder. 4 means 4 corners, north, south, east, and west. It always means it's a mason, it's an engineer, it's an architect, you're going to build something. And then, of course, 8, of course, means power and death and regeneration and, whatever else that goes into the number 8. Everything fits. The 8 is typically a money number. It's a power number because it's infinity. So it has death and regeneration in there. So that 48 for me ends up giving all its energy to the number 12, which is the 1 and 2, which is leadership and duality. Aries and Taurus, which both have horns. And then that gives its energy to the number 3. So ultimately, I'm in a 3 cycle for this year until February 4th of next year. I moved into a 3 cycle. I'm servicing the number 3. So all you have to do is take your age and be authentic with the compound number, which compound means 2. Like if you're 37, you're servicing the 3 and the 7. But you're also giving your energy to the number 10. And then you're ultimately leading off and giving all your energy to the number 1. So your boss is the number 1. That's what you're feeding. So if you're 37, you're going to be giving all your energy to the number 1. You're in a 1 cycle. 1 means new beginnings. Its color is red or violet, depending on which way you distinguish the rainbow. It's a fire, it's leadership, it's planting new seeds. So when you're in a 1 cycle, for that whole entire year, it's all about planting seeds, maybe calling a lot of people, networking, trying to figure out what it is that you want to build. Because when you move into a 2 cycle, number 2, you're going to be moving into duality and working with people, maybe joining some groups to help you build whatever it is that you want to build when you move into that 2. And then, of course, that's 2 in astrology or 2 in numerology. It's collecting things. 2 means more than 1. So now you move into the 2 space and you're like, hey, let's start collecting things. And then you just move into the next cycle. So for me, I'm in a 3 cycle. Last year, where I did a lot of my videos, I was I was 47, so I was in a Master 11 cycle, which kind of is very fitting if you look at everything that I've been doing. And if you knew all my code, I could totally blow you away. But I mean, there's just too much to talk about. But I was servicing ultimately the number 2 last year. Now I moved into the number 3. 3, this is a very powerful year for me because it's all about being super creative and, talking about the gut instinct. Those of you that are in a 3 cycle, if you're servicing the number 3, well, that's related to your gut. So maybe if you're having any kind of digestion issues, I'm certified in nutrition, folks. I bring that into my readings. If you're going to be in a 3 cycle, well, then maybe you need to pay attention to your gut instinct. Because if your digestion is jacked up, if you eat food and you get bloated, then you have an imbalance in your stomach, which is going to affect your brain, because the second brain is your stomach. So if you're in a 3 cycle, you got to make sure maybe you need to clean out your gut and do a detox and pay attention to your body if your body's talking. A lot of you have health issues and you ignore them. I mean, I say that to myself. I'm looking in the mirror when I say that, because I'm the same way. I ignore some of the things, like especially my teeth. I put them off until they like completely knock on my door and they're like, hey, you ain't ignoring me anymore. But my code, I know how my code works. I am all about experiencing things to the absolute extreme in a lot of ways. Because when I experience those things, I can then go back to the rest of the world, like you, ladies and gentlemen, and I can tell you which ways not to do it. How it feels if you wait to get an abscess in your tooth. Some of you have had that happen. It's no fun. Like 2 weeks ago, folks, just 2 weeks ago, I got some kind of food poisoning or stomach virus or something. I woke up in I don't know what, it was probably early in the morning, 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning. And I had like a heavy stomach and I just started hurling, and it was torture for the whole day. And the only thing that made me feel better was to force myself to throw up. And then I would only get about 20 minutes of neutrality in my gut area, and then I'd have to throw up again. And it went on all day and all night. It was absolute torture. So, what did I eat differently? Well, I had some raw vegetables. I may not have cleaned them off. And my lesson was to tell all of you, make sure you're washing your vegetables and clean them off. Don't just buy them from the supermarket and just, because I eat a lot of raw stuff. I love raw food. But clean your stuff. It wasn't the water, because I drink filtered water here, but that's the thing with me, folks, is when you're living out an 8 life path like myself, you may experience a lot of ups and downs and a lot of things that some people just would never experience, but you're here to kind of go share those stories with other people. So it's really interesting. So anyways, let me go back to some of your comments here, folks. Antibiotics screwed my stomach. Yeah, folks, let's get into some health and wellness. Let me check my music. Hold on a sec. Folks, is the music too loud for each and every one of you? I don't know, but just let me know if it's too loud or whatnot. Just like to have a little bit of background music. But folks, listen, your body, I studied nutrition. I became certified in nutrition many, many years ago. I've been in the health and wellness field almost my entire life. I've been working out since I was 16. I went in the military and I really got into working out. I've been in competitive bodybuilding. I was much bigger many, many years ago when I was more into my ego and I was more asleep. But health and wellness, folks, in order for this to work properly, this has to work properly. They go hand in hand. And I see a large amount of people that they're not taking care of themselves. So I always say, if you can go work out and you don't, you're selfish. Because if you get sick, if you can work out and you don't, and you just decay faster and then you get sick and you have to go in the hospital, guess what happens? Your family members, they have to take time out of their day to go help you out, and then they're going to lose out on their lives. That's like super selfish. So my message is to you, and again, this is just my truths, but if you can work out and you don't, you're selfish, period. Because you're not taking care of your temple. You're not respecting your temple. And working out could mean anything. You don't have to go sit there and pump weights and be a bodybuilder, but you should be doing some kind of exercise at least 3 or 4 times a week to make sure you're getting the blood stimulated and moving and stuff like that. You should be having a blood panel done every 3 to 6 months to making sure your levels are all good, your triglycerides, your cholesterol, your vitamins, your hemocrat levels, red blood cells, make sure your white blood cells, all that stuff's working correctly. If you have any kind of distension in your stomach, your digestion's jacked up, you should be doing a detox. You should be getting away from processed foods. And any foods that do bloat you, you shouldn't be eating those. Most of you should be taking a probiotic. If you need help with what probiotic I'd recommend, send me an email and I'll send you what I think you should get. Everything I send to everybody is pretty much what I take. I'm limited here in Mexico, which kind of sucks, but it is what it is. But these are things like your body needs 90 nutrients every single day. That's what it needs. It needs 90 nutrients. If you're not getting those 90, like let's say you're only getting 80 because you're a creature of habit and you eat the same things day in, day out, because we all pretty much do that. If you're only getting 80 of the 90 nutrients, then the body has to rob Peter to pay Paul, and that doesn't always work the right way. And so your body starts to decay faster. If you're more acidic than you are alkaline, the acid's going to decay you quicker. And then you're just leading up to some kind of health crisis in the future. Same with, don't brush your teeth for 6 months. Don't floss your teeth. And then let's talk in 6 months and you let me know how your teeth are. That's why I feel like dogs, they age a lot faster because they normally don't get their teeth brushed. So a lot of bacteria drips down and they decay much faster. That's why their lives are a lot quicker. That's what I feel is my opinion. So if you have a furry, you should try to brush their teeth. Get them in the habit as a puppy, because then they won't get mad if they're an adult and you try to brush your teeth or try to bite you. But nonetheless, folks, it's all about the nutrients and getting those 90 nutrients. And so if you're in the US and you can buy supplements and you can afford to pay for some kind of supplement, it's totally worth it. Like, try to sacrifice something to get your supplements. There's a really good powder out there, folks. That's called Green Vibrance. Green Vibrance. And it's, if you look at it in like there's an 83 serving, it's about $90 or something like that. And you'd be like, well, that's a lot of money. But when you think about a scoop a day of that, it gives you all the nutrients that your body needs to regenerate and be healthy, So this is something that I feel that if you want to become a great decoder, you have to have great health. That's just my opinion. If you're young, if you're like in your 20s or your early 30s or something, you may be able to get away with not getting all the nutrients in your body because your body hasn't caught up to you. But I'm getting to my midlife, man. I'm getting towards the 50. I feel great. I got my aches and pains from working out, and I get my handicaps. But for the most part, I have amazing sleep. I have great energy. I still go to the gym 4 or 5 times a week. I work out. I eat really good. Take care of myself. Drink a lot of water. But if you want to really be in a level of like focus and make sure that you're going to be warding off any kind of persecution that's physical or mental, you got to take care of the temple. And that's for everybody. It doesn't matter what your birthday is. It doesn't matter what your code is. There are some things in your code that, that you're going to have to pay attention to for sure. Like, I'll give you a prime example. I was talking about the solar plexus chakra. And that's the color yellow, right? Solar plexus, yellow, the sun, right? And that's the second brain. And I have in my astrology chart, I have 5 planets, 5 in my 3rd house. So that's what's called a stellium. And I feel, using medical astrology, if you study, I've read books on it and I'm pretty educated in it, but every zodiac sign has their own weaknesses and strengths, depending on what you are. But if you have any kind of planetary expressions going on in your 3rd house, well, you may have an easier time of having some kind of gut disruption. I suffered from what's called candida for a long time. I didn't really know what it was. And candida is a yeast overgrowth, and it's basically your whole gut digestion is messed up really, really bad. And I'd say that if you go study the word candida, my opinion through the medical field, that over 50% of all Americans in the United States have candida. If you have any kind of protrusion in your stomach, after you eat, you more than likely have candida. It's easy to get. It's an imbalance in the stomach. So any of you that have, multiple planets in the 3rd house, you may want to consider taking a probiotic each and every day. Some of you can get away with, taking something once in a while or eating sauerkraut or the natural stuff, yogurt, acidophilus, stuff like that. You can get away with doing stuff like that. And then of course it's based on our code, and we're so far away from source as well that, our genetic disposition is jacked up as well. So it's really, really important to not only decode yourself and know thyself, but you got to know yourself physically as well and maintain. And that's all about prevention. So supplementation to me, folks, when I do your reading, I can tell you, can tell you what you're prone to if you want to ask. And then I can see some of you are just born to meditate. You know, the sixth house is the third eye. And the sixth house in astrology is the pineal gland. Let me show you the syncretization of that, folks, in the tarot. This is where, again, you know, did the people that created the tarot, did they know this information and create the card based off of that? Or were they just being used? And the information that, because folks, listen, when I was being raised as a child, I was born into a religion called the Jehovah's Witnesses. It's not a secret. I'm not ashamed of it. It served its purpose, and, you know, and it's part of my code. But in that religion, I'm taught that everything is literal in the Bible, and that everything in the scriptures is divinely inspired. That means that everything in that book, man didn't really write. Man was guided to write it. Well, I believe that in everything. I believe that in movies and music, and it's all inspired by something outside of our reality. That's why I said man's being used. But nonetheless, here's the card that's related to our third eye. It's called the Lover's card. Let me just get this thing up. There it is. Let's see if I can get a better shot of it. There it is. Card number 6. It's called the Lovers, and when you look at it, there's a pyramid on there. You have the man and the woman, and you have the Godhead above that, and you can put a triangle and connect all 3 points. And the man and woman represents our pineal gland. It represents the tree of life, which is the feminine, and then the tree of knowledge, which is the masculine, which is our DNA, which is where you get the fish from. That's where the fish come, the Vesica Pisces. It's all tied to the DNA. It's tied to the pineal gland, the third eye. And that Lover's card is card number 6, and the 6th chakra is the pineal gland. So your 6th house in astrology is the pineal gland. I mean, if you like theology, you'll know it says that the earth was created, or our world was created, in 6 days. Pineal gland. Third eye. The DNA, our DNA. And the man and the woman. And the tree of life and tree of knowledge, which is our DNA, which is the double helix, the DNA structure. So your 6th house in astrology is your house of mastery. It's also known as the house of health, of course, but it's the first master number. It's the equivalent of the number 9. The number 9 and the number 6, when they come together, they form the infinity symbol. Duality. That's why the 96 is yin yang, because it's duality. And that's the Taurus field. When you study any of Santos's great work, or Ken Wheeler, which you saw, I showed on I have it in my upcoming decode on the Great Architect of the Universe Part 3. It's all about that vision of Ken Wheeler and real science, folks. That's why we see when you go and you start to decode things that have nothing to do with the mainstream, and you're finding the same patterns, and that's completely organic, and the same patterns exist in movies, music, and sports and religion, that should logically tell you that man's not freaking coding that crap. But see, many decoders out there are just focusing on the rigged sports, and they're focusing on the news and connecting the dots of birthdays and days on the calendar. And then, of course, they're going to point out that it's this group and it's that group, and this one's doing that and this one's doing this. Folks, that's no different than me blaming the mosquito for making me stay up at night because it was buzzing around my ear. The mosquito's got a job to do. I don't like mosquitoes. Do you like mosquitoes? I can't stand them. What the hell whatever created this reality, why did it create a mosquito? It's freaking annoying. A tick. How about a tick? Do you like ticks? You ever find one on your skin? I found one time embedded in my skin, freaked me out. Can't stand them. I get the creeps from ticks. They suck blood. They're vampires. Did that tick, was that part of the sin of Adam and Eve? That's why that story is so ludicrous. What animal sinned to deserve to be stuck down here in duality and, do what they got to do, be a carnivore and Folks, it's just absurd, the stories, and they're just stories, right? But to place the blame on an organization, when you start to study the esoteric, when you really start to study the esoteric, and then you bring real physics, real stuff, magnetism and dielectricity and electricity, real shit in science and physics, and you find the same exact patterns that you find in the mainstream, what should that logically tell you? It's all organic, folks. It's just, it may be watered down, but man is being used to express the code. That's why if you haven't seen my decode on Rat in a Cage, it was a 3-minute and 7-second long video, which I never planned. There's that 37, which is the Jack in the Box card. Never planned it to be that long, folks. I never planned any of my videos. All my videos are completely coded and scripted. I'm being used as the catalyst. My entire life is scripted, and everything. Where I'm living right now, if I showed you the latitude, longitude of where I'm living, the floor, the shape of my floor is all hexagons. I have the Aquarian symbol. I talked about this on my last one. Folks, my whole life. And no one's trying to mock me. I have nothing. I'm not part of the Jesuits. I'm not part of Bill Gates and Melinda. I'm not part of those people. I'm not part of the people that are all about the adrenochrome, if that's whatever. I'm not part of the child trafficking. I'm not part of that kind of stuff. Yet I'm being completely used and operated by something outside of my reality. You see, every night, folks, I kind of tinker around with magic a little bit. And I'm going to share that with all of you right now. Maybe it's something that you want to do. Let me get to some of your questions. And I know that I go off topic, so I apologize. But let me try to get into some of your comments here, folks. Caesar, do I use Judith Hill medical astrology book? No, I do not. I'm sure she's pretty good if you're mentioning it. Smoking weed is very good for you. I'm on the fence on that, folks. I'm on the fence about marijuana. See, marijuana, let's get into that because I know a lot of you smoke marijuana. I have a video on the cannabis heart, and it's in my queue. I just shelved it, but it's going to be coming out. But obviously, cannabis is a plant. And I used to be a huge advocate of cannabis, and I abused it because I was using it every day, and to me, that's abuse. Because it's a tool. And when you smoke or take edibles, when you do that every day, your body builds up a resistance to it. And then, what you once did, like I haven't smoked cannabis since I was in LA, and that was back in, September of last year. And because of what's going on with me, I can't smoke anyway anymore. It's a long story, but nonetheless, I can, but I can't do it like I used to. But I used to smoke every day. And there was a point where I was, and I felt like I could go so much deeper into the world. And what's just really interesting is my best research and my best presentations and my best work has been for the past 6 months, and I've been on nothing. I've been clean. Now, I'm not saying that you're not going to find some amazing downloads if you smoke some pot, right? Because trust me, folks, there was a point in my life when I was like, I don't ever want to be sober again because I love the way I feel on cannabis. Music sounds better, and I get into this character where, because I'm naturally introverted, so I would be like, oh my God, I love everybody, and I get really funny. I could be a stand-up comedian when I smoke. I mean, I don't know. It's like gold for me. But there was a time when I abused it. I would smoke at least once a day, if not twice. And then, what took me up to the moon with one hit, I'd have to do 2 or 3. So now I'm taking in more smoke, and that's carcinogenic. And even if you take the edibles in, you're having to take more, and you don't get the same effect. It's like drinking a cup of coffee. If you're drinking 1 cup, then you're up to 2 cups, and then you're up to 3 cups, and you have to drink 3 to feel like you drank 1. And so it's just like anything, So the cannabis these days, and I got friends in the industry, so I'm not speaking out of my butt here. It's all hybridized. There's not really anything original about it anymore. Most of the cannabis out there today is under great scrutiny when they grow it. They put a lot of chemicals in it to make it grow faster, to make it have more crystallization on it. And the very reason why the marijuana gets crystals on it is because it's the female plant, and it's kind of like the orgasm of the female. It's literally screaming for a male to come over and mate with it. And that's what forms the crystallization on the cannabis, the trichomes. But, the marijuana today is nothing the way it was 20 years ago. Like when back east, when it was illegal and we call it Mexican brickweed, it would be this real shitty kind of bud. And you'd have to smoke a whole joint to get stoned. Now you just do one. You just take one hit and you go crazy. There's a great skit by Louis C.K. It's one of the funniest skits on the internet about smoking pot. I don't know if you go type in Louis C.K. smoking pot. It's the funniest thing in the world, but it's awesome. It was off his 2011, I think, live at the Beacon Theater, but it's hilarious. But nonetheless, I feel that some of you take cannabis in every day, and to me that's abuse. Like, you got to do everything in moderation. Some of you are not willing to. I wasn't willing to give it up at the time because it's like, man, I don't ever want to be sober. I love being under the influence of cannabis, and I always was like, it's my medicine. And in a way it was, because I ended up being this person that, I couldn't be sober. So it has the advantages and disadvantages and, and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, I guess my point to all this, folks, is, moderation is where it's at. Moderation is key. And please don't fool yourself into thinking that you have to have cannabis. I know some people have to take it in for medical reasons, for pain and all that stuff. I totally get that, but it's like anything else. It loses its efficiency if you end up taking it every day, and then you got to take more and more. And next thing you know, you're taking in so much that the body builds up a whole bunch of this stuff, especially those of you that use the vape pens. The pens, absolutely very bad idea to smoke out of a pen, because you get the propylene glycol, the oil, and even if they're using a coconut oil, it's not made to be burnt. That oil goes inside the lungs and it ends up accumulating on your lungs, and that's not what you want. You'll end up the lungs have cilia in there, and they move around like plankton in a coral reef. And when you smoke, you end up numbing that, and you end up actually breaking down the lung system and the respiratory system. That's not my opinion, by the way. So those of you that are using a pen, I would highly encourage you to toss the pen. I had one, but it's a different high, and there's a reason why, because it's processed. So anytime you process something, you're going to get a different effect. You want to get as close to the source as possible. So that's my take on cannabis, folks. My really long take on it, because Maximus said smoking weed's very good for you. Well, I'm 50-50 on that, folks. It's good for you in some ways, and some other ways I think it's really bad for you. So anyways, myself personally, I like to have a little tequila once in a while. I enjoy tequila, especially here in Mexico. It's kind of very inexpensive and it's really good. So let's see what we got for comments here. We got 1111. Yeah. Folks, 1111, when you go type that into Subidium.com and you try to find out like where's that located in pi, I'm always looking for where these numbers are in the string of pi. And 1111 is found at the 12,700th decimal digit of pi. Let me change my screen, folks. I'm going to go and I'm going to break off, and I'm going to go to a smaller one here. Hold on. There we go. And let me go to my website here. All right. So folks, whenever you have, this is decoding now. Let's get into a little decoding, since some of you have put the 1111 there, and it's a phenomenon, and a lot of you see it quite a bit. And I'm here to tell you, when you're seeing numbers over and over, that's a pattern. You should be keeping a log of that, Because just going on the internet and like, you know, if I go to open up a web browser and I type in 1111, you know, you're going to get, I mean, look at how many results there are, 521 million. That's just typing this in there. And if you type in esoteric, you're going to get even more of a different analogy and opinions and all that kind of stuff. What does it mean? And so therefore, what it means is should be personal to you. That's what's the most important thing is what does it mean to you? And these patterns, if you're seeing 444, 333, 222. But nonetheless, this 1111, I always go into this website. It's called subidium.com. And it goes up to like 2 million digits into pi. And this is where a lot of my research comes in, because we're all creating the infinite amount of pi through the sine and cosine waves. But there's the 1111, and this is where it starts. It occupies 4 digits, but it starts at the 12,700th decimal digit of pi. And then you go to numberempire.com and you type in, you know, you reduce it down because you know that the 127 is the 31st prime number. So you have the zeros on top of that, but see, 1111 is connected to the 12,700th decimal digit, and that's connected to the 127, which is ended up found at the 31st prime number layer. Prime numbers are standalone numbers, and what's 31? Then we have to ask ourselves, okay, well, what does the 31 mean? Well, when you go to the, I don't think I even have my medicine cards up. Let me find this for you folks. You can see what I'm up to. See how busy my desktop is. Let's open up the medicine cards, and I want to show you. Now, again, if you want these graphics, folks, I've created all these graphics, and I give them away to everybody. If you want these, then just send me an email, and I'll send them to you. My email is decodeyourreality@gmail.com. Decodeyourreality@gmail.com, and I'll send these to you. I have this one. I have the tarot. I have this chart, which I haven't released to the public yet, but I do use that during my readings. But nonetheless, there is the 31st card right in the very dead center. It's the turkey card. And so, you know, what is the turkey medicine? Well, if you go and research Turkey 31 medicine card, if you Google that, you'll find that the basic overlay of the turkey is about giving things away. Giveaway. That's the big takeaway for this card. It's the card of giving things away. Now, when you syncretize the cards with that, the 3 and the 1, now you can syncretize it this way, where you have the 10 of Wands. What does this card mean? It means taking the world upon your shoulders. Great responsibility. 1111 means great responsibility. Taking the world upon your shoulders, because 1111 ultimately is the infinity symbol. 11 on one side, 11 on the other. If you play football, how many men are on offense? 11. How many are on defense? 11. 11, 11. Infinity. So that's the 31 right there. But then if you break it down to the single cards, folks, you get the Empress, 3, which is all about giving birth to things, the Queen. And she hooks up with the Magician. And what does he do? He creates magic. So essentially you have the Magician who has all the tools on the table in front of him. The colors is the red and white. Red means fire, white means purity. He has the infinity symbol over his head, meaning infinite potential. All the tools of the tarot on the table. The as above, so below. We all have this card in our first house. We all were born on and being the number 1, but this Magician hooks up with the Empress, who gives birth to things, the number 3, which then we can link to the sun because it's the solar plexus. And that being the light bringer, the giver, sun, when it comes up, what does it do? It gives birth to things. It makes things grow. So ultimately you have the 31 linked to the 1111, linked to the 127, and that's how you syncretize. This is how you decode beyond just creating numbers through gematria or numerology. So you have the 31, and then you have the turkey. So you're essentially, the turkey's all about giveaway. Well, what are you giving away? You're giving away birth. You're giving away magic through birth, 31. The Empress hooking up with the Magician, giving birth by way of magic. So ultimately, that's what this number 1111 ends up becoming when you break it down through more layers of decoding. Is that 127 becomes the 31st prime number. And then you can get into look at what the binary number is, folks. If you know anything about the binary numbers, it's quantum computers. Some say that we're living in a simulation, and some say that the binary number is where it's at. It's just zeros and ones. This is a straight up 1 all the way across, 127. 27 is currency. When you go to the currency is 27. And if you don't like currency, we'll just put in current, and there it is, electrical current. So then we have currency or current with the 27, and then we have the 1 in front of it. So what does the 1 mean? It's the higher octave of the 27. So it would be ultimately, we're seeing numbers as the 127 is the boss of the 27, because you have the 1 in front of it. 127. It's not 27, it's 127. And then you'd have this one right here being the 127 with 2 zeros on it behind it. Another higher octave. But ultimately, the 1111, folks, is ending up being a layer of currency. 1111. That's what that means, folks. Currency. Let me just move this down here. All right. So that's how you read those kinds of things, ladies and gentlemen. You read and you decode through not just connecting words to numbers. That is a complete dead end. It's a dead end when you just connect words to numbers. But binary numbers, folks, if you study binary numbers and you know what you're looking for, that's just advanced decoding. It's more advanced decoding. And when you get into the binary system, you then realize that the system that most decoders out there are using, and again, I'm just making an example. So if you're someone who just connects words to numbers, that's okay. That's where I started. I mean, do you just run right into trigonometry, or you start off with general math? No, you start off with 1 + 1 = 2, and then you move into algebra, and then you move into, trigonometry and advanced layers of mathematics. It's all gradient. But I'm here to say that, do you think a general person that reads general math, like 9 × 9, 3 × 3, 1 + 1, do you think that person has any kind of thing they can teach somebody who knows trigonometry? There's no way, because the person that knows trigonometry already knows the basic stuff. So that's why I'm saying the decoding world, in my opinion, is so watered down. But you got to start somewhere. So there is no right or wrong way to do it. And I have to just label it as basic decode. When you're connecting just words to numbers, that's just basic decoding. Nothing wrong with it. You got to start. That's where I started. And then you get into the more advanced layers, and you can get into sine and cosine waves and trigonometry, and seeing how the code moves through the time and space of our reality. And why we're at maritime law. Why is the sea a space? What does the sine and cosine waves mean? You can measure those. I'm working on some instructional videos, just time consuming, to bring out to people, to share with the world on how to decode, from going from the basic connecting numbers to getting more into the advanced stuff, using the elements of the periodic table, which a lot of you are catching on, which I think is phenomenal, and I commend you for doing that. And then getting into the prime numbers, of course, and then the square numbers and hexagonal numbers, and now the octagonal numbers and the nonagonal numbers and these polygonal shapes, and getting into sacred geometry. When you get into those layers of decoding, folks, and you bring it into the news and sports and all that, and you see the code is behaving the same way in those areas in life that man has created, which is artificial in the sense, but then you bring it into the world of magnetism and physics and geometry, and you realize the same patterns are in those layers of the organic versus what you'd call the inorganic. You then realize that there's no separation, and both layers are connected, and man's just building the code, not in control of the code. And something is controlling us like marionettes, called the puppet master. And that's where you're going to get all your stories of the fallen angels, and you're going to get your stories of the Nephilim, and you're going to get the stories of the biblical stuff, and all those stories. Folks, when I was growing up and I was raised in my religion, I was told those were real. Those really happened. And now I look at it, I'm like, how did I even fall for that stuff? Like a guy got swallowed by a fish and lived in its belly for 3 days and 3 nights. When has that ever happened in the news? When have you ever heard about a guy coming out of some fish and being spit out on land? When have you ever heard that story duplicated where the guy that actually had that happen to them? It's never happened. Have any of you been ever talked to by a snake before? Has a snake ever walked up to you or slithered up to you and started talking to you? Has that ever happened to you? How about a donkey? Has any animal ever talked to you before, folks? I'll give you the answer. No, they haven't. Why did it happen back then and then it's not happening now? Okay, let's get to some of your questions. Binary numbers are 0 stand for women and 1 stands for man. Maybe, I think the 0 actually could be androgynous. I think all numbers are androgynous, but they may have more of the masculine, feminine. But yeah, I always said 0 is the cosmic egg and everything comes out of that. On the tarot, let me show you this, folks. You guys are going to like this. The tarot is great because it just tells you how the numbers are expressing themselves. And again, whoever created the tarot was divinely inspired because there's no separation. So when somebody say, well, no, the tarot is from the devil. So you're saying that the divine, which if there is a God or a devil, you're saying that God would just let the devil do what he wants to do and fool all of us and there's no separation? I don't know. Anyway, here's the, let me just get this. Oh, I still have that screen up on there. Hold on, folks. So here's the world card, folks. And notice the 0. You'll notice the 0 on there, and I'm going to show you the syncretization into the cards of illumination. But there's the world card, and you'll notice on the 4 corners of this card, let me get rid of my... You'll notice that there are the 4 faces of the divine, talked about in Ezekiel 1 verses 10, the ox, lion, eagle, man. There's the androgynous character on the inside of that hole, that portal. This is the 21st card in the deck. Notice the 4 points on each side of the card. Pay attention to those. Those are the 4 fixed signs in astrology. And now you want to syncretize those into the cards of illumination, a typical poker deck. And since the world card is the 21st card, let's pull up the 21st card in the deck in the cards of illumination. And here that is. The 8 of clubs is the 21st card in the deck. So essentially, there's the syncretization of those 2 cards. Let me try to get it in. It's a little challenging, but there it is. And what you'll see is that this card right here, on each, you have 8 of these trefoils, but in each corner is the 4 faces, and then in the very center is a diamond shape. So the 4 corners of this card are exactly the same as the 4 corners of that card. And in the center of this card, you have the tarot wheel. In the center of that card, you have the diamond shape. And of course, 8 means death and regeneration. This is the 21st card in the deck, folks. That's how you syncretize this stuff. And you can realize and kind of understand that everything's inspired and written into the code, and there's no separation. That's why I can syncretize all these layers that have absolutely different authors and all that kind of stuff. We can bring in the medicine cards, and we can look at the... As a matter of fact, I'm going to show you something, folks. I'm going to show you freezing ice and liquid. And this is, again, did whoever created these medicine cards, did they know this information? And were they consciously thinking about placing these animals in their positions by the respective numbers, or were they being used to do that? So here is card number 32, which is the ant, which is what we all are in the microcosm. We are the macro of the micro to the ant is the micro, we're the macro. But when you're talking about the gods beyond us, we're the ants. Nephilim equals 32. And what is 32 degrees with water? It freezes, becomes a solid. So in the relation of as above, so below, it would be mankind turning into physical matter, becoming an ant. 32 degrees. And then when you get into the 33, which water becomes liquid at that point, it's ascension, which is why the Christ was crucified through that story at 33 years of age, because 33 means liquefying. It's the change of physical matter into the water matter. It's a completely different dynamic in physics. And what's fascinating, and I have this coming out in my decode of Architect of the Universe, I think, part 3, yes. But anyway, here's the 33rd card in the deck of the medicine deck. It's called the Weasel. And what's really funny, folks, if you go study this animal, it's the smallest known predator in its class. It's a predator, man. It's a stone cold killer. The weasel. The weasel starts off with the letter W. The W in the English ordinal numerology, the numbers 1 through 26, matching A through Z. The letter W is the 23rd letter in the deck. And we know through numerology that the number 23 is tied to the words like crown, blood, and history. Crown, blood, and history. 23 is the royal star of the lion in numerology. That equals 69, tied to Leo the lion. Then you can get into the stars Regulus and all those that are in the sign of Leo the lion. Tom Brady was born in the sign of Leo, the goat. But anyway, 33 is the weasel. Think about that. The weasel. You ever heard that terminology? Like, that person's being a real weasel. And yet this card, this animal is tied to the number 33. And you see 33, folks, I came out with a graphic on the infinity symbol. And I had shown that in the very middle was the 3, and then you'd have 3.141 going towards the left side or the right side, and then the mirror of that would be the 3.14, and it would go off towards the left or right, and you'd have kind of pi going in both different directions, mirroring one another. But what I failed to realize is it's not the 3 in the middle, it's the 33 in the middle. It's the 33 in the middle, which is arsenic. Arsenic is got a weight of 74, and Jesus and Lucifer equals the number 74 in the English numerology cipher. They're both tied to that. Now, if you take Lucifer's real name in the theology, it's actually spelled Hyll, otherwise known as hell. And that word through numerology through the Hebrew is a number 39. 39, which is fascinating because that's tied to the element yttrium, which has got the letter Y for its abbreviation, which is the exact shape that a snake's tongue is when it comes out of its mouth, or a Komodo dragon. It's the shape of the letter Y, which is yttrium. 39 is linked to the words skull and bones, which is where Yale is located, and Yale starts with the letter Y. So you see, you can syncretize all this stuff, and you can throw out the window the BS crap that you've been hearing that man's coding this, because man's not doing anything other than living out the code. Getting an error message. Folks, if there's any disruption, please let me know if you guys get any disruption. Because it's saying that I have unsmooth video transmission going on. Can anybody give me some feedback on there? Everybody hearing me okay? Is everything kind of in sync? Am I lag? And it's interesting because as soon as I mentioned Yale, it just bumped me into this error message. Oh, now it went away. Okay. But nonetheless, folks, that's how that works. It's all organic. All of it. And we are just the micro to the macro. And that's the way it works. And when you look at those layers, you realize that those people out there that are telling you that this person and that person's doing this, and that's partly true. You can pinpoint it and say it's certain groups doing certain things, but that's what their job is. That's just like, the shark has its job to do. You have your job to, like if you have a job to do, you go to work, you sit in your cubicle, or you go and do whatever it is. If you're a policeman, or if you work at the courts, or if you're a painter or whatever. If you're a painter, your job is to go paint the house. Well, maybe there's a roofer up there and he's not going to go paint. He's going to go do the roof. But you guys working together and you end up building the house and painting the house. And so everybody's got a job to do. And when you use that simple friggin' analogy, you realize that the roofer is not a bad guy. He's just building the roof. Maybe he is a bad guy, but he's just building the roof, and the painter's painting the house, and everybody's got a job to do. All right, let me take some phone calls here. Let me put up the phone number. There's the phone number, folks. Right up in the screen. Did it come up yet? Let me move it over. Okay. I'll wait for this to come through with the phone call. And if you guys want to call me on WhatsApp, I have this plugged in and we should be able to get a... But folks, again, if you're watching, please just, if you're going to call, please call. Please call with a question. So I'll go through some of these comments. Oh, see, we got Zach. So Zach, what's up, man? So I'm not going to be an ass like you are, because you constantly put people down. And here's a guy, he has a lot of knowledge, but he's low vibration because he's putting people down, calling me a joke, and it's all good. I mean, again, you're just doing your job, but prove me wrong on my stuff. I challenge you. Prove my stuff wrong, and you won't be able to. Because see, Zach, the difference between you and I is that, you just decode mainstream news and sports. That's it. But you see, you don't get into the sacred geometry and real physics and dielectricity and magnetism, the real things about our lives. And then when you start to decode those things like I have, you see the same patterns that you're seeing in your world, that you're decoding with sports and news and all that kind of stuff. And how do you make sense of that? How do you say, well, no, that's different from that? Well, it's not, because it's all part of the game. The game is all organic. And that's it. And, Zach, I love your work. I just don't agree with the way your attitude is towards people. I don't think you're very nice to some people. I think you put people down, and that's all good. That's just, if that's the way you want to be, But I think you can go about it a different way, getting your message out there, not putting people down, not calling people names just because they don't agree with you. You can just agree to disagree. You can have debates on a much nicer scale, because ultimately, when you become like that and you get low vibration, because that's what it is, it's all about vibrational frequency. That's real science and physics, by the way. But when you get on a lower vibrational frequency scale, you're no better than the people that you're putting down. You're now on their level, because that's real science, by the way. But see, when you can stand in the middle and be neutral and come out with your work, and you can express your ideas and all that kind of stuff, and you can realize that you're right, just like I'm right and everybody else is right. And then all you have to do is just accept the people that want to share your research and knowledge, and try to kind of come together versus separate yourself and try to say that your way is the only way. Like, I know you're just like I am. You stand firm in your research and you believe that your way is the right way. And there's no one here to take that away from you. It's not a matter of me trying to prove you wrong. I'm not, I'm not here to try to do that. Let me read it. Logan, the reason I know your name is because multiple people said you were constantly throwing shade. I'm a fraud. Okay. Well, I don't know who's saying that. So again, I'm not here to do the whole pointing the finger. And again, you calling me a fraud. Why don't you expand on that? How am I a fraud, Zach? I'd love for your here. And folks, I don't want to take up too much time trying to debate, because again, I'm trying to be the better person here. Like I said, Zach, you got your ways, I got mine. And the only thing that maybe I've said to people on my podcasts and stuff like that is I said, I don't believe in anything mockery going on, and I don't think you should be blaming it on certain people, because when you go beyond the blaming and pointing of fingers and you realize really how the game works, you realize that you're just kind of a watered down kind of version of what the truth is. Not saying that you're completely wrong, but never once have I called you any names or, put you down directly, and that's not my style. As a matter of fact, I've praised you many times. And again, I just always say I don't agree with all of the things that you put out there, and not everybody agrees with me, and that's the way it is in this world, But folks, if we're going to get this right, you got to make the truth your own. It's not a matter of trying to be out there and pointing fingers at people and then putting people down. That's the difference between me and other people. I don't go out there and I don't slander and call people names and just be an ass. That's not my style. I try to be nice to everybody that I can and accept everybody for who they are, because I know that everybody's just doing their job and playing out their code and all that kind of stuff. But Zach, I would just encourage you just to be a better person, dude. Just be nicer. The reason why you have a lot of persecution is because I see how you behave on some of your podcasts, and you're not a very nice person, and that's not a secret. So if you can kind of eliminate not being a nice person and just be cool and not call people names, and not, just because they don't have the level of intelligence that you may have or the level of education. Folks, you see, that's the thing in decoding. I may say that people are decoding on a basic level. That's my opinion, by the way, which is why in every single video for the majority of the time, the very reason why, in the very beginning of my videos, I say, these are my opinions and truths. And it's up to you to use your own logic and discernment. I'm not here to force anything on you. That's why I specifically put that disclaimer up in front of my videos, because I want you to know that these are my opinions and truths. And that's it. But folks, if there was a comment made on 9/11. Yeah, folks, I decoded 9/11. I decoded everything from the planes to the times to the day. It was a King of Clubs day. Do you know what the King of Clubs means? What the kids were saying, kite, hit, steal, all that stuff, all that magic spell they were speaking. Those men and women that were behind 9/11, they're all being used. And again, is it my opinion? Yeah. But when you go watch my decode on it, I bring in so many different layers that it would just absolutely be impossible for man to decode it or to code it. That, yeah, sure, you could say, well, they chose it to be on September 11th because it's the 9/11 and they consciously wanted to do it on that day. And okay, maybe you're at that conscious level, but then I just go all the way back to realizing that your mind is not your own. I just had this conversation with somebody, and we were talking about driving a car. And I had said, when I learned how to drive a car, I learned on a stick shift. And I remember driving the car, and my dad was in the car with me. And when I was trying to let out the clutch, the car's bucking, and, like the car's stalling, and I'm grinding the gears and all that kind of stuff. And then I practiced and practiced and practiced. And then I got my license on a stick shift. Now if I get in the car, got a lot of years driving, I get into the same kind of car with the same kind of contraption of shifting gears, and what am I doing? Do I have both hands on the wheel? Am I just like nervous? Am I bucking the car, letting the clutch out too fast? No, I'm not. I'm literally shifting the gears. I've got my phone. I'm talking on the phone. I'm drinking a coffee. I'm eating something at the same time, listening to music in the background, and I'm driving. And then I get to my destination. I'm like, how the heck did I get here? Who was driving the car? Because I certainly was doing 5 things at one time. In the very beginning stages of me driving, I was literally consciously there driving the car. Because I was scared, I was nervous. You fast forward to right now, I get in the car and I'm doing 5, 10 different things at one time. Who's driving the car? Am I consciously driving the car? Or is it just off of being a robot? And now you're moving on to something else. And that's how I feel life is. Like you're conscious of something and then it becomes second nature, and then now you're on to something else. And that's the expansion of the universe. Because you're not driving the car anymore. What is driving the car? You're busy doing something else. So in essence, can we say that man is actually choosing things on a certain day to do certain things, and they're killing all these people and doing all these rituals, and it's all mockery? So, folks, what would be the point? Why would anybody have to try to mock you, folks? Think about it consciously. There is no mockery going on in the world of dielectricity, magnetism, and electricity. There's no mockery in the world of physics. Now, there may be some things that we're told that are lies in the way the world operates and works. Maybe we really didn't go to the moon. But in the world of true science and physics, folks, when you decode that, and that's the difference between my research and someone else that just decodes mainstream. And again, I'm not here to say that their work is wrong. I got started in decoding in 2013, and I've admitted, Zach, if you're listening, you're the reason why I got started decoding. I didn't learn from you. I got started because of Zach Hubbard. So I naturally will give credit to the guy. But as you can see, the difference between my research and his are freaking massive shades of a gradient. My research is more based upon science and bringing in layers that most decoders never bring into the layer of the world of decoding. That's the difference. And again, it's not is that person right and am I right? Or everybody's right, folks. The person that uses general math in grade 9 or grade 8 or grade 7, whatever when did you learn general math, folks? When was the first time you actually learned all your mathematics? And then when did you get into algebra, which is more advanced mathematics? When did you get into algebra? Well, someone who's in algebra, are they looking at someone who's in general math and saying, oh, no, you're a fraud. You're wrong. No. It's just a gradient of mathematics. And then when you get in from algebra, then you go into, like trigonometry, which is what I'm getting into. And I haven't shared it with the decoding world on the layer that I want to, because it's very challenging to introduce this. I had it on some of my Elvis decode, but it's very challenging to introduce trigonometry, the sine and cosine, because it was in my Elvis decode. It's very challenging to start to get out to the world trigonometry and pi and how the vibrational and real physics, folks. How does that play out its role in our world of decoding? It's really challenging to do that. Because a lot of people are just there and they're just trying to connect the dots, and that's great. They're using general math. I'm trying to introduce trigonometry, and I'm not even advanced in trigonometry. I'm learning it as I go along. But when you start to research sine and cosine waves, and you discover how pi works in the world of decoding, there's a footprint. Then you start to bring in the layers of like September 11th. It's a footprint in the game. you can start to see from what I've seen, folks, the man is just playing out the blueprint. They're not in control of the blueprint. And what you say is, well, they knew they did it on this day. Maybe, but something beyond them is telling them to do it on that day. And then they may remember, oh, hey, there, because I'm seeing it now. I'm seeing the cards and the days they fall on. And, you know, the presidential inauguration. Let me give you an example, folks. Presidential inauguration, which got changed. It's now on January 20th. What's January 20th? 120. What's 120? Do you know what the number 120 means? Got to know what the number 120 means. Where is it located in pi? Where is it located in the sine and cosine waves, the footprint? But this right here, this card right here is the 33rd card in the deck, and this is the day that the president puts his hand on the Bible and gets inaugurated. 7 diamonds card. Card 33. Did man consciously say, we're going to change the inauguration to January 20th because it has to be on January 20th because it's the 7 diamonds card? And then you syncretize that and you say, okay, well, what does this mean? Well, it's the 33rd card in the deck. What is 33? It's when water turns from a solid to a liquid. Real physics. Does that have anything to do with mocking anybody? Trying to pull the wool over your eyes? No. But did the people that decided for the president to be inaugurated on January 20th do it because it was on January 20th because it was the 33rd card in the deck and 33 leads to the Christ and Lucifer? Did they do that on purpose? Did they consciously know that? Just like driving the car, the example I gave you of driving the stick shift, when I first drove the car, I had both hands on the wheel. I was deathly afraid. I was grinding the gears, stalling the car. I was in the now moment of driving that car. I mean, I was making sure I wasn't going to hit anybody and no one was going to hit me. Now you take a car with the same circumstances and I'm doing 5 things at one time. Am I really driving the car consciously, or am I just off in Never Never Land? See, the point I'm trying to make to you folks is that the code that's being expressed was already written in the software. And you may become aware of the code. A lot of you decoders are. A lot of you decoders are becoming aware of the code. And that's no different than you becoming aware of algebra versus general math. It's the same circumstance. And then, you know, again, I'll go right back to your own personal life, folks. When I look at my personal life, I'm talking about my own personal life, myself. When I look at my own personal life, and I realize that it's all coded. My entire life is coded. And I didn't code it. I have nobody that I'm working for. I have no secret organization that I'm working for. I'm not working under the guise of any secret organization. No one's controlling me that I know of in the sense of mankind. But my life is completely coded and scripted, and I'm not in control of that script. How do you describe that? How do you explain that? How do you explain the fact that my life is completely coded and I don't even know how? I can't even explain it. Why was I born on February 4th? Why am I here in Mexico? Why is there Highway 51 over there? Why was I born in latitude, longitude 71 degrees and 41 degrees? Why was I born in a town called Putnam that equals number 28 in numerology? Why are all these things happening? Well, when you syncretize all them, which is what I should clearly suggest to all of you, you should know what your code is. And then you'll realize, folks, that your life's not your own. You're just playing out your avatar, your character. That's what you're doing. You're playing out your character. And your job is your job. So if you want to go out there and point the finger at something and say, they're doing this, great, maybe they are doing that. But again, that group that you're pointing the finger at, that you're saying they're doing it, they're being controlled from the macro position, not the micro position. The micro position, which is what we're all living in, the micro, we're being controlled by the macro. I don't really know how much more simpler to put it to you, ladies and gentlemen. And again, these are just my opinions. And there's really no way for me to prove it other than the research that I've been coming out with. But if you study yourself and you start to decode yourself and you realize all the layers that are involved in your life, how else are you going to put it into parameters of you owning your own life or you have it being controlled by somebody's life? Your life being controlled. Okay. Let's go to Zach's trying to call in. Okay, Zach, go ahead and call back, man. I was on a rant and let's see if he'll call back. So anyway, folks, let's see if we can get Zach on the phone. All right, here he is calling in. Let's say, Zach, be nice now. All right. Zach?
Indeed, it's me.
All right, man. Be nice now. Let's keep this civil.
Yeah. So, well, first I just want to address what you said, because I always hate when people act like they're so nice and friendly and, oh, I'm so much nicer than you, Zach. The last time I called you, it was your birthday, so I was nice to you. But what was funny is when I tuned into your live stream, a lot of people said I should check out your live stream because you throw a lot of shade at me. And I tuned in about 30 seconds before you got into your bit about how you do much better decoding than me. You're on a much higher level. I keep it really basic. Mm-hmm. And that's why I tuned in. I just listened. I was like, well, whatever. He can think whatever he wants to think. But again, that's throwing shade, and that's trying to build up your own ego and reputation by saying your work's better than mine, which is, as we both know, the most known work in the community on this subject. Mm-hmm. So is that not true? Did you not say that? I
don't remember saying that, but if it is true, it is true. I honestly cannot remember back then, and my memory is just so...
Okay, well, you did say it, and trust me, the only reason I'm aware of your channel is because a lot of people commented who do follow you who say, Logan's always throwing shade on you. Check out his channel, Decode Your Reality. He's always trying to take shots at your work. And Logan, it's so obvious. In your video on Vincent Jackson's death, you said, some people are saying he was murdered, but this is just the way the universe works. Too many moving parts. You say that phrase all the time. Too many moving parts. So, Logan, tell me, who coded the cover of Murder by Numbers, the film, and changed the E to the 3 and the B to the 8 when murder equals 38 and 83. And the song Murder by Numbers came out in 1983, which is about how killing's the sport of the elite. Is that too many moving parts? That Vincent Jackson wore the number 83, died at age 38.
Yep.
And
for sure,
his former team just won the Super Bowl on the 38th day of the year in light of this being put out as predictive programming and a known code within music and film. Is this too many moving parts?
I believe it is. Because you see, when you...
too many moving parts?
Well, when you add in the cards and the people's birthdays and the timestamps of the people's birthday...
You're adding in all these parts. The cards and stuff, who even knows if this is anything? This whole thing with cards, to me, doesn't amount to anything.
That's because you're not you.
How did you do in the NFL playoffs this year? Did you go 13-0? Did you go 3-0 on the Super Bowl with prop bets? Did you call the Super Bowl before the season began dead on? I don't use playing cards, but I do this year after year with the knowledge that I teach.
Right, and I clearly said in my Vincent Jackson decode, I said if you want to get into sports decodes, go follow Zach and Company because that's their forte, and I remember saying that.
But it's more than sports. Did you put out a video a month in advance about how there'd likely be a blackout on Valentine's Day? Did you have that? Because I did.
That's great. So what are you looking for, Zach? Are you looking for me to pat you on the back?
So again, in your video for the Super Bowl too, you're saying, some people are saying it's all rigged and whatnot. It's not rigged. It's just the way the universe works, even though sports are so obviously rigged. And again, you said, it's not the Jesuits and all this. Did you watch the Super Bowl? Because there was only one mention of one player's school during the game, and they were sure to point out that the kicker went to a Jesuit high school right before he shanked the ball out of bounds for a net 25-yard punt. Did you catch that part of the game?
I didn't watch the whole game, so I wouldn't remember.
But see, this is the kind of stuff that goes on week after week.
I agree.
Remember and can't account for. I do. And that's how we figured out it's the Jesuits running the script. I mean, you look at how many athletes went to Catholic schools, Jesuit schools, it's way disproportionate. So to be making these videos and saying it's not rigged, it's just the way it works, it's just a complete joke.
I never said it wasn't rigged. I never
play the Super Bowl where I called out like literally everything that happened before it happened in the game. And you know, again, it's the one part in the game that shocked me was when Tom Brady threw an interception. I said, oh my God, I predicted Tom Brady would have no picks in this game and at least 3 touchdowns, and he threw an interception. Then out came a late flag, a bogus flag, and they took the interception off the board. And there was no penalty there, but it was to ensure the rigged outcome. Brady was not to throw any any interceptions in the Super Bowl because he stayed on 38 for his career in the postseason, 38 picks. And he picked up his 83rd career touchdown, just like how Vincent Jackson's 83, Brandon Florida's 83, where he died. He wore the number 83, football's 83. Brady's birthday is August 3rd, which can be written 8-3 or 3-8. The Super Bowl was on the 38th day of the year. Florida's 38. And again, the last time the Super Bowl was on the 38th day of the year, who won? Peyton Manning, the guy born on the 83rd day of the year, March 24th. The 2 old guys winning at this old age, beating young black quarterbacks in the prime of their life in the rigged rituals that are. So, I mean, it's just a joke, Logan, for me to be listening to you make these videos and say it's
then don't listen to my stuff, dude. That's all good.
It's so obviously rigged, and it's so obviously rigged by the exact numbers that we talked about.
But Zach, Zach, you're just
promoting things like saying, you know, Chaldean's the true cipher. I agree that Chaldean's important, but you can't use Chaldean every day to see through how they stage their propaganda. The Chaldean cipher didn't point to anything on Valentine's Day, but using the base ciphers like I teach, we saw why Valentine's Day was right for the blackouts a month in advance. That's the kind of knowledge that can save lives. So to be over here saying that it's not rigged and nobody's
I never said it wasn't. I never said.
It's totally disingenuous.
Hold on a second. All right, so I let you talk. So I let you talk. Hold on.
No, Logan. Logan.
Zach, I'm not here to argue.
Is watch the video I just uploaded from 1978 from the BBC showing Flight 911, a woman giving birth to twins, and a man standing on top of the World Trade Center. This is a story that BBC did in 1978 called Connections about Flight 9/11, the World Trade Centers, and a woman giving birth. Yeah,
Sesame Street had the Cookie Monster eating the World Trade Center.
That's just organic. That's just organic.
Absolutely, because you see, Zach, the thing about it is what you're failing to realize is that man is the micro of the macro. So yeah, man is actually constructing the blueprint, but they're not the controller of the blueprint. Like the voice in your head right now, you're not in control of that. You think you are, but you're not. That's the difference between. That's the difference between my research and yours. You're just decoding mainstream news and all, and you do great work, dude. I'm not belittling your stuff.
My work is to wake people up to the agenda.
Then keep doing that. Then keep doing that. Then keep doing that.
Well, don't you see how serious the agendas are that are being waged against humanity?
Yeah, totally. And all those people are doing their jobs, just like you're doing your job.
Doing their jobs.
Everybody has a job to do, Zach. I don't know how you can't see that. How do you not see that?
What do you mean?
What do you? It's as basic as it gets, my friend.
You just said you see that there's agendas being waged, but then you're saying that nobody's pulling the strings on this stuff.
Listen, there's energies outside of our reality that controls the remote on everything. So what you're seeing is the micro to the macro. And I've shown it. See, I don't just decode mainstream news and music and all the things that you're doing. You're doing a great job at that, but I don't just decode that. I go into real physics and science and the same patterns. I'm connecting the same numbers, the prime numbers and the Fibonacci numbers and the cards and all these things that you say don't have any relevance. Well, the cards have been around since the 13th century. So they have a lot of say in this. And they're falling on days that are linking up.
Tarot's definitely connected.
They're all connected to it, dude. And every time you decoders, you great decoders out there, every time you add a layer onto your world of decoding, it makes it that much more complicated because see, I strive to use just the Chaldean for a very long time to create my foundation. And I'm glad I did, right? You guys are using, you straight up use 4 ciphers at one time, which is totally fine if that's your style. But do you
started in 2013? Did I use 4 ciphers in 2013?
I don't remember how many ciphers you used back then. Okay, two. So, okay, great. Great, but you're typically using 4, right? You're using the 4 base ciphers, which is totally fine, right? But do you realize when you go to 4, you make it that much more complicated because the numbers connect in every single way. So every time you add on another layer of numerology, it just would make man have to add that layer in to make sure that gets coded in properly. And it's not possible to do that. It's just man would never get anything done.
It's extremely possible.
It's not. It's not. I put a challenge up to you. I'm like, go ahead and code something with all the.
Possible doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. What you think it's just a coincidence that JJ?
There are no coincidences.
John Watson won out of town the week that Houston
yeah,
did with weather war.
Zach, there are so many symbols in games that you're not even accounting for, and you even said in your video, like, I don't know how this stuff's possible. I don't know what's happening, but I can't explain it. The reason why you can't explain it, the reason why people are flashing signs and there's all this symbolism, that means everybody's in on the conspiracy. Everybody's conscious of pulling the woolly over your eyes and mocking you.
Again, to answer the question, you just think it's a coincidence that JJ?
There's no coincidence. No, they're being used, dude. It's part of the game, dude.
Being used by who?
Energies outside of our reality. I don't know how much more simpler to put it to you. Why can't you understand that?
Okay, what is that? Define what energy.
Go watch some of my videos, man. I mean, the people that follow me, that follow my research, they know that man's being, well, the majority of them anyway, I would hope, man's being used. You're being used to do your code, my friend. You're put on this birth. You got downloaded and came and incarnated into Zach Hubbard, whatever your full birth name is, on whatever your birthday is, and you're here to do a certain job. You're doing it. But to say that my job is wrong, I don't say your job is wrong. I said you're doing your job. That's totally fine. If you want to keep going out there and telling people.
Here's my problem with you is you're uploading these videos. You're taking away all responsibility from parties involved because you're saying it's not them when it's clearly them. For example, you were just talking about Inauguration Day being January 20th, the date that's written 20/1 in the majority of the world like 201.
Yeah, I know what 201 is.
The official name of Inauguration Day, inauguration of the President of the United States,
yep.
just as it is on the government website, it equals 201. Like the Jesuit order equals 201. And this year on Inauguration Day, Biden was sworn in by the president of Georgetown, whose name equals 201,
right.
The Jesuit school in Georgetown,
yep.
And that's the same man who did the funeral service.
Yeah, but you don't see right. But Zach, see George.
The same man who did the funeral service for Beau Biden at age 46, and Joe Biden.
Do you know what 46 means?
46 exactly.
Do you know what 46 means?
Pope's birthday.
Yeah, but see.
Catholic equals.
Yeah, but do you know what these? But see, Zach, you're not a numerologist, man. You're connecting numbers. Do you know what the number 46 leads to? Do you know what it means? Do you know what the number 47 means?
Catholic equals 46. There's 46 books.
But what does the number mean?
Catholic also equals 1.
Right, but what does the number mean, dude?
More chapters in the Catholic.
But what does the number mean? What does the number 46 mean, though? That's my point. Do you know what it means?
Numerology of 1, and 1 symbolizes God.
Okay. Now, and what else? What else does it lead to?
But that listen, you're going beside the point.
I'm not going besides the point. I'm challenging you. I'm challenging you because you're good at connecting numbers.
Let me finish the point. Beau Biden died at age 46, 201 days before Pope Francis's birthday. And Pope Francis's birth name, Jorge Mario Bergoglio, equals 201. He's the first Jesuit pope.
Right.
The founder of the Jesuits, Ignatius of Loyola, equals 201. The Pope Francis is the first Jesuit pope, and he's the first to live in Suite 201 at the Vatican.
Sure.
And it's known as the Domus Sancti Marte, which equals 201. So now we're talking about how he died at 46, 201 days before the Pope's birthday. This past election was exactly 46 weeks after the Pope's birthday. Pope Francis equals 59. It was the 59th U.S. presidential election, and Francis was 83 at the time, and election equals 83.
Right.
So look at how perfect that ritual is. And then Biden, he's been in D.C. for 47 years. What do we know about 47 in D.C.? Government, authority, president, White House, Republican, Democrat, D.C., all those words.
Tetragrammaton equals 47. Georgetown equals 47. White House equals 47. It's Tetragrammaton, my friend. It's the ancient Israelite God of the Bible. That's what's running Washington, D.C.
That's my first book. You're telling me stuff I already know.
Well, then what are we talking about? Okay, so if you know that, then why would you say that man's doing it, dude?
Because man is doing it.
Man is acting out the part. They're not in control of the blueprint, man.
So you mean to tell me you think it's all just a coincidence?
There's no such thing as coincidence. It's all part of the script, my friend. It's called the game of life.
Think people are being murdered ritualistically? I heard you just say,
maybe.
Why would they murder people? Why would they mock people? I mean, these are easily answered questions.
Why does anybody murder anybody, though? Why would you take someone's life? Why? For what?
to gain power.
Power over what?
But these are ancient beliefs. Ritual sacrifice
to
their gods, their deities, to gain more power.
Do you know anything about the deities? Have you studied black magic and all those lower entities called demons? Have you ever studied those? Gone into black magic? You ever study that stuff?
Well, you might have studied it at a greater extent, but you're asking me to answer these questions, and I'm saying this is what's going on in the world we live in. Right.
Well, you see, the great part. All right, I'm gonna finish this with you off there. But thanks for calling, dude. And listen, I appreciate and I respect your position and your opinion.
Well, here's what else I want to say about you.
Oh, okay.
Again, you in your one video, you said I reached out to Zach. He never got back to me. I called into your birthday.
I hear you.
Nice, even though you were talking shit, and I gave you my email and said reach out to me.
Okay. Well, let me be the bigger person and apologize to you then. Okay, because.
So in your video, you tried to talk like you're better, even though you're not. You haven't predicted anything.
I'm not here to predict anything.
You haven't held anybody accountable. You're putting out this confusing information. You're acting like you're above board. You're acting like you reached out to me and I ignored you. I gave you my email and said reach out. You still haven't, and it's been a month.
Right.
And the videos you continue to put out, it's obvious that you're targeting me with what you're saying.
I'm totally not targeting you. You know how many people?
Who do you think you're talking about?
Zach, do you know how many? Do you know how many people actually talk about rituals and mockery and all this stuff and all that? Do you know how many people talk about that besides you? You're not the only person that does that. So when I said that in my Vincent Jackson video, I wasn't linking it to you. I'm linking it to what I hear as the buzzwords and through the decoding world. It has nothing to do with you. If you feel like it was directed towards you, that's on you, dude.
It's just a coincidence that the Murder by Numbers poster codes 38 on the cover, right?
What? But Zach, okay. Well, I appreciate you calling. I'm gonna let you go because I want to finish this up. But see, we're miles apart with our wisdom and our decoding. And I guess I'll come out here publicly to you, Zach, and I'll apologize if I put you down in any way. I'll apologize to you if I slandered you or threw you under the bus or anything like that. So I hope you can accept my apology. But my work is my work, and I stand by my work just like you stand by your work. But we're miles apart because, again, this whole world that we're living out is not just about mankind. There's sacred geometry, and then there's physics and real stuff that really how the world works. And when you start to decode all this kind of stuff through physics and all that, you realize the same patterns are in those real world things as they are in the artificial world that we've created. So how to cross-reference those things, I just don't know how you can kind of keep going with those beliefs, I guess is all I can say. But, Zach, I appreciate your work, but it sounds like you just want to try to say, you said like, have you predicted this? I'm not here to try to go head to head with who can predict what. My decodes are not about predicting who's doing what and sports games and all that kind of stuff. It's far beyond that. And clearly anybody that follows my decodes can see that. And I guess I'll just leave it at that, folks. I send all the love to you in the world, Zach, even though I don't think you deserve it, just because the way you behave. I just don't think you behave in the right mannerisms, especially right here. It's just like you just want to continue to try to, I don't even know. I'm kind of at a loss for words. But anyway, I'll send you off with love, and I just wish you the best. And the very reason why I haven't called you is because I wanted to avoid a situation like this tonight. I guess I went a little bit too long. And that was what I wanted to avoid. And going on and doing a podcast together, who's going to do the talking? Who's going to do the listening? There would have to be some kind of mediator in order for us to come together and hash it out, because we're just miles apart, folks. Ladies and gentlemen, if you follow my work, if you follow Zach's work, the difference between his work and my work is that he thinks that man's doing it, and I think that everything's being controlled organically. That's the difference between my research and his. The main points of it anyway is my research is leading towards everything being organic, and then his believing that man is in control of what's going on down here. And I believe man's just a puppet on strings. And my videos support what I'm saying, and I guess his videos support what he's saying. He's very good at connecting the numbers. He's a wealth of knowledge. He's been doing this a long, long time. So I don't take anything away from Zach Hubbard and his work and his research. And, kudos to you and more power to you. And if you think that I'm a disinformant kind of person, if you think I'm a fraud, well, that's your opinion. See, I got plenty of people that say otherwise. And my approach is far different than than yours, and that's just the way it is. So I'm not even going to go further with this because it's just not worth it. It's really, really just not worth it. But anyway, folks, that was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun. Let me get my music back on here. And let's get back into some... Okay. So anyway, folks, I hope that wasn't a waste of your time. You get to listen to me and him debate on things. I guess I just did more listening than anything else, but I don't take anything away from anybody, folks. There are a lot of great decoders out there, including Zach. But where I'm at and the level that I'm at is where I'm at, and it's the level that I'm at. And I will continue to put out my videos, and I will continue to say that man's being used like a puppet on strings. And those are my opinions. Those are my truths. You don't have to believe me. You don't have to follow me. You don't have to subscribe to my channel. I'm certainly not going to give you predictions of games, although, I mean, I did a fun, I even said on when I decoded the Super Bowl, I did it for fun. Don't gamble on me. My job is not to give you the skinny on sports and gambling and trying to bet on things. That's not my game. It's not what I'm here for, folks. It's not my code. Not interested in that. Been offered to jump into that world. I just don't have any interest for it. But what I am decoding are real things and tangible things in science and physics. And then, if you saw my last decode on the Vatican, the layers that go into that. And then when you realize what's running the Vatican, it's not man. So anybody can say anything they want about man orchestrating things, but folks, I'm watching. I'll give you a perfect example. I'm rewatching the show 24. I think I had mentioned this on my last podcast. I'm watching the show called 24 with Kiefer Sutherland. I'm on the last season right now. Started in 2002. And it had a lot of predictive programming in it because on season 2, they had the first black or the first African-American president, David Palmer, before Obama got elected and put into the presidency spot. Then they had the virus in there, and they've had a lot of stuff, terrorism and all that stuff. And as I'm going through this show, I'm taking notes. I'm looking at all the symbolism in the show, from apartment building numbers to building numbers, to license plates, to things sprayed on the buildings in graffiti that could never have been part of the set. They were just there because they chose to put that building in the movie, in the show, because they wanted to shoot the scene at that building, and it just so happened to have graffiti on there. But that code tells me something. And that code has nothing to do with the show. The license plate on the car, all the cars, everybody would have to be in on it. Folks, they would never create any movies or shows because there'd just be too many things that man would have to pick. Like, got to have this license plate on that car. Got to have that graffiti on that building. Got to have that number on that building. Got to have that number on that elevator the right way. It all has to be all cherry picked by the executive producers and whoever created these shows. And that's why I feel there is no way man could ever do this. Sure, man can pick January 20th as the presidential inauguration. It can be flipped into the 201. Absolutely. Go watch my decode on event 201. I decoded the timeline of that with the cards. I added in the layers of the cards, adding another layer into it. Now man has to bring this into it. And then syncretizing the cards of when the days happen. Bringing in astrology. Man would have to bring that layer in, as well as the dates on the calendar, as well as the prime numbers, as well as being the mirror of different numbers. And then they'd have to bring in the medicine cards that came out in 1988. I can syncretize these into the world of decoding on anything. And again, folks, every time you add in another layer, it just pushes you farther away from thinking man could ever consciously do things. I watched some of the Super Bowl. I caught the second half. I don't really even watch sports anymore because to me it's a waste of time, but it's entertainment, right? But I watched it. And I saw symbolism in there that was in the way background. Not in the forefront, but in the way background. I could see it. And you would then logically, thinking man's doing, you'd have to bring all those other layers into the conspiracy, thinking that, because those people would have to be part of whoever's planning and programming it. Those people would have to be involved in the big conspiracy, because it's a big conspiracy if you believe man's doing it. Every little layer that you see in the background, like I said, I'm watching the show 24. Every single layer in that show, from room numbers to, like I said, graffiti on the wall, license plates, specific cars, specific models of cars, timestamps of, like 24 uses timestamps, having those on there. All these layers, all these moving parts, it's way too complicated for man to ever bring them all together and have them all sync up when they're all separate. They would never get anything done. I mean, like I said, I was in Hollywood for a long time. I've been on movie sets. I know what goes into them. And I can go watch my decode on Lucifer Part 2. That show Lucifer. Here's the thing for you, Zach, since we're on the topic. If you think man's doing it, go watch my decode on Lucifer Part 2. On that entire show, and tell me man's coding that. So anyway, so I'm a con man and I'm a fraud and all that kind of stuff. It's all good. I've been called way worse than that. So, but anyway, folks, let's keep it nice. I tried to be nice, and I don't want to even go there anymore. But let's kind of get back to decoding, folks. But Zach's still going. It's, again, folks, it's just people trying to be right and prove others wrong. See Zach saying I'm a lesser mind. That's all great. I'll take the energy, Zach. Keep bringing the energy, brother. I know how energy and magic works. I've studied black magic. I know how it works. I'll take all the energy you want to give. It's all good. But it's okay, folks. It's accepting everybody for who they are and playing out their code. And the thing about it is when people, and we're all guilty of it, right? Because I'm guilty of it too. And, it's just like, it's trying to be right and prove others wrong. And I really strive not to do that anymore. I'm not perfect. I do make mistakes. I do still go into that realm. And it's very tough because when you get persecution, when you put out videos and you get persecuted for them, it's really tough for you not to come back and to defend yourself. It's challenging. But what I learned through personal development, and I have not mastered this, is to be still, be neutral, to be quiet and just listen and observe instead of just lashing out and saying what you want to say. It's challenging to do that. Because as I said, everybody wants to be right. And the greatest thing I ever learned in my world of decoding and my own personal world is that everybody's right. Even the person that is wrong, like if they go to court, you ran the stop sign, you did really run the stop sign. Yet the person that ran the stop sign, maybe they weren't consciously there in that now moment. They were on the phone and they felt like they didn't run the stop sign, but they really did. And they go to court and they get a fine. The judge seeks in favor of the cop that pulled him over. And the person that walks out of that courtroom, no matter what happens, even with that ticket in hand and the judge laying down that sentence of getting the ticket, I didn't run that stop sign. Even though they did in their own right mind, they believed that they didn't run that stop sign. Everybody's right. I think the magic comes is when you can admit you're wrong, and I've been wrong so many times. I said this in the very beginning, that a lot of my stuff in my videos, I'm wrong in there. I miss things. I make mistakes. But I believe everybody's right. So you people out there that are decoding, and I'll just apologize to everybody. If I put you down, I'm sorry. If I called you a basic decoder and you didn't like that, I wasn't really pointing a finger at you. I'm sorry. I can be the bigger man and say and give you my apologies and kind of try to like just squash it, right? But I stand by my research. I stand by my decodes. And you know, what's the difference between mine and everybody else's? There's no difference. It's just my own work. I'm not trying to go, I'm actually not even in competition. When I go create a video and my decoding style, it's something that I created on my own. I didn't learn from anybody. What you're seeing from my decoding, using the cards and the medicine cards and the tarot and astrology and numerology and human design and all these other layers that I use in my decoding efforts, I learned all that stuff on my own. I mean, I read a lot of books, watched people, watched Zach, watch what they do. But then I went on my own and I taught myself. And, you know, like I said, for the majority of my research career in the decoding world, I primarily use Chaldean. And if you're asking, you know, why did I do that? Well, number one, if you're a numerologist, you'll know that the Chaldean numerology cipher is the oldest known cipher on the planet. So you can open up all those layers in numerology or gematria, and I don't even know how many, let me see, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12, 18. There's 36 ciphers on gematrianator.com. 36. Where'd they come from? Someone had to create them. I mean, the primes and the trigonals and the squares and all that. But I mean, all these other reverse ones and stuff, these are all more gematria and like satanic and also. Who created that? Someone had to create that. It's an extension of the numbering system. But Chaldean is the oldest known numerology cipher on the planet. That's not my opinion, if you know numerology. And so for many years when I was decoding and doing my research, I just solely tried to use, I started off with a lot of septenary because I was a fan of Marty Leeds. I think he's got a lot of great work. And is he wrong? No, he's right in his own mind. He's got a lot of great stuff. And then I went to Chaldean, and Chaldean to me is, you know, it goes off the number 8, and I know what the number 8 means in numerology. If you don't know what the number 8 means, well, then you wouldn't see the significance of, you know, how important that is and why the Chaldean only uses the numbers 1 through 8. But it's in sync with the English ordinal because the English is using the numbers 1 through 26, and 2 plus 6 is 8. So those are the two primary ones that I've been using now. And now I'm getting into the square cipher. And I've been showing significance with that one. And again, every time you add a layer onto your decodes, it just squashes the idea that man could ever code it, because then man would have to use the square cipher. They would have to consciously sit down and say, we're going to do this on this date, and we're conscious of the Chaldean, we're conscious of the English, we're conscious of the reverse ones, and now, oh, here's the square one. We got to make sure we include this one in there. And then the primes. Folks, every time you add a layer onto your decoding, it just squashes the idea that man's even coding it. Man is fulfilling the blueprint. They're not in control of the blueprint. The blueprint is numbers. The numbers are in code, and code is written by something outside of our physical reality. Again, the micro. What do we do as human beings on this planet? What are we designed to do? We're designed to write code. We're living through computers. We're actually moving towards computers. And we're writing the code for that. But we're just a micro of the macro. There was an episode of The Simpsons that came out which said exactly what I'm saying, is that we are just fractals. The Simpsons came out with this. My friend Broku is on his channel. On his YouTube channel. There's a lot of decoding of The Simpsons. That episode, I don't remember which one it was. Let me see if I can find it. I'm going to see if I can post it in the links for all of you so you can go watch his video. on there, but he kind of reposted it. And it talks about the Simpsons in Springfield, which is where they're at. They're having like Martians invade Springfield, and Martians or aliens are destroying Springfield. I can't find him. Did he? Can't find him. Anyway, I'll try to find it and post it on my Facebook page or whatnot. But anyway, in that show, in that episode of The Simpsons, the message was that Springfield was under attack and it was complete chaos. And then they actually end up going and visiting the God character. And he's just there with a remote control, controlling everything. And then, Bart and Homer and stuff, they're like, hey, we want Springfield back. We want you to stop doing what you're doing. And God's apologizing, the God character. I'm sorry about that. And you see the remote control in his hand. And you think it just stops there, and then he's inside of a television screen. And he's being controlled by a little kid on a carpet playing with a remote control. Now, is it true what they're saying, The Simpsons, saying that we live in a macro to micro and it's just infinite? Maybe. But I believe we're being controlled remotely. So when you see an event that's happening on the world stage, 9/11, for example, yes, that would have never happened unless man carried out the code. But I believe that man wasn't the writer of the code. When you follow the video game SimCity, came out in 1989, I was talking about this in the very beginning of this broadcast, and I'm going to be coming out with a decode on Minecraft, that video game. SimCity means simulation, and that game is all about creating cities. And in SimCity, not only can you create cities, but you can create natural disasters. You can bring in natural disasters to destroy things and have people go through those things. Exactly what's going on in our reality is the same thing that goes on in that reality of SimCity, which is virtual reality. Macro to micro. So in essence, folks, we are the puppet masters of the micro called video games and computers and software and operating systems. But then we're the micro to the macro that's beyond us. And we're just playing out the code that whatever wrote us into the script. And again, I've shown over and over and over on so many videos now that man is not in control of this. I clearly said I'm not in control of my life. Folks, everything's coded in my life. Everything that happens, I find things and I'm like, how the hell is this possible? How did I end up here? And again, folks, you got to look at your latitude, longitude. Look at your astrology. Look at your astrocartography. Adding in another layer, the planets, the stars. Where you're at on the world stage. What your age is, what your cycle's in, what cards you're in, what cycle you are with the cards. When I add in this layer, this is another layer right here. Here's the cards. My friend does these cards right here. Here's the cards. Here's the chart. When you're 40 years old, here's the chart run by Uranus. And here's another code that man would have to use to incorporate into what you're seeing on the world stage and have this match up and link up. Folks, it's not possible. I don't know how anybody could use any logic thinking man is acting out the code. They're not in control of the code. That's where I stand on this. That's the big difference between my research and most other people. And that's okay. I'm just going to agree to disagree. It's not even worth it. It's really, really not. I'm not here to debate anything with anybody because obviously we're on different playing fields. I know what my code is. I know what I'm designed to do. I know why I'm here. I know what I'm supposed to do. And I can tell you, I saw the comment, I'm certainly not here to say that, the Masons, the Rosicrucians, those that worship Baal, those that worship, those that are involved in the temple of Set. Those people right there, they get a pass because they're not in control of their lives. No, I'm not saying that, folks. You now have to add in the other layer of karma, if you believe in karma and the wheel, and realizing that we're all in this cube of space. And if you get into Hinduism, which is the oldest known text and religious stuff that came down the pike supposedly, and you believe in what they believe in, which is reincarnation and all that kind of stuff, you know, if you believe in that kind of stuff, and then you add that layer into it, and you realize that maybe you're paying for all your karma and all that stuff. But again, folks, I just totally am not in any mindset of thinking that man could ever control this reality. And, you know, there was a movie that came out in 2000, and again, this is not the end all of my research, and I'm not saying that this is the way it works, but there was a movie that came out in 2011 called The Adjustment Bureau. It starred Matt Damon. Matt Damon, if you follow his career, he's been in other movies like Elysium, if you know what Elysium is. And then you can bring Megadeth, the band Megadeth, because Megadeth had a song on their album Euthanasia called Elysium Fields. So then I have to bring Megadeth into this whole code, because Megadeth would be part of the conspiracy as well, because Megadeth has a song called Elysium Fields. Matt Damon was in a movie called Elysium. Matt Damon was in a movie called The Adjustment Bureau. The Adjustment Bureau came out in 2011. If you just drop that 0 to 11 is tied to the number 47. And what's the number 47? It's the Tetragrammaton. What's the Tetragrammaton? Well, it's on if you watch my Vatican decode, it's right on the top of the Bible, on that the King James version that came out. The Yod He Vav He is right on the top in really small. I showed it. It's in that graphic of the King James, done on purpose. So, you know, again, Chaldean, Tetragrammaton 47, Washington, D.C. 47, White House 47, Georgetown University, that's 47. What does the 47 mean? 47 gives all its energy to the number 2. What does the number 2 mean? It means duality. 47 is the heart, 7 is the crown. So when you syncretize all these layers, folks, and you realize it's part of the code's just expressing itself. It's all organic. And it's not a matter of saying, oh, you get to go off scot-free because you're murdering people. There are plenty of murderers out there that aren't Jesuits and Masons. How do you explain that? What is your white blood cells for? Do you tell your white blood cells to go in and kill the bacteria in your body, or do they just do it because it's the code? Your white blood cells are coded to go in there and just destroy your bacteria and work towards, you know, heightening your immune system. Did you code that consciously, or was that already coded for you? It was already coded for you. That's the way your body works. Macro to micro, folks. Your body's designed to work a specific way. This game of life's designed to work a specific way, and that we are not controlling it. We are being used to control this reality. So yes, you can go in and blame certain organizations. You can clearly say they're the ones that are responsible for killing this person. Great. Like Princess Diana. Was she murdered, or did she really die in a car accident? I don't know. I wasn't there. Who was responsible for that? Was it really an accident, or did she really get murdered? You can always point your finger at something. You can always point your finger at something and blame something. That's totally fine. You can do that. But is that really what's going on in our reality? Again, folks, I just will say it again and again and again and again and again. Man is just expressing the code. They're not in control of the code. So if you want to blame an organization for killing somebody, that may be the truth of the matter. But if you go macro to micro, they're just a puppet on strings doing those sort of things because they're being controlled. The voice in your head is not your own. Pink Floyd sang it in Brain Damage. There's someone in my head, but it's not me. So that's what I got to say on that, folks. I mean, I've been going around and around in circle. I see the chatter. Let me go into some of this chatter here. Some of these. Okay, so we have a lot of, it's just, folks, in the chat box here, look, I'm going to tell you, as being the host of this show, is that you got people trying to be right. And you got people just trying to be right, and I'm a troll, and I'm covering for people, and that's the farthest thing from the truth, folks. I need all of you to understand. I'm not covering for anybody. I'm not saying that no one's out there doing things on, like when the Buccaneers and the Chiefs went out on the field on February 7th to play the Super Bowl. There were really men that went out on that field, 11 offense, 11 defense, that went out on that field and played that game. I'm not debating that. On November 22nd, John F. Kennedy appeared to be assassinated. In 1969, it appeared that men went to the moon. On September 11, 2001, it appeared that planes hit the towers. People really died. Over 2,900 people really did die on that day. And I'm certainly not going to tell all of you that didn't really happen, because it did. But if you realize how this game works, folks, man's not running that. Man is acting it out, yes. But they're not running that. So the distinguishment between my research and the majority out there is, I'm not trying to show you and pinpoint the organizations that are behind the incidents that are going on. I'm telling everybody on this planet that it's beyond man. Man is a little puppet on strings. And you're just playing out your part. And that's the difference. And I don't know how much more clear cut I can get. And if that makes me a shill, if that makes me a fraud in people's eyes, if that makes me lesser in people's eyes, if people want to put me down and persecute me and call me this and that, I really don't care. I'll take your energy, because I know how energy works. So it's all good. Keep mashing down the thumbs down button. Keep giving me your comments. Keep putting me down, especially in this chat box. I got a ton of energy coming my way. Thanks, everybody. Even your negative energy, I'll take it. Your hater energy, I'll take it. It's all good. I'll take it. But that's the distinguishment, folks. And I'm sticking to my story on man being used. I've supported it and I've proven it in my decodes. And when I come out with this Architect of the Universe Part 3, it's pretty crystal clear that we live in a prison planet. We're playing out a game. It's called the game of life. There's a script. And each and every one of us have a part to play out that script. So you have, like a shark. Shark has their script. Fish have their script. Firemen have their script. Policemen have their script. Democrats have their script. Republicans have theirs. The Green Party have theirs. Prophets have their parts. You have your part, I have my part. And we're all just cogs in the wheel. But as I've shown over and over, folks, you're not in control of the wheel. The wheel's in control of you. 2011, that I was saying that and I got sidetracked. 2011 came out with the Adjustment Bureau, and it was about, in that movie, the guy says to Matt Damon, he says, you don't have any free will. And Matt Damon's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, yeah, you may choose what your toothpaste, what toothpaste you're going to use or what shoes you're going to wear, but you've clearly shown that you cannot run this reality. And so, the story on that, and again, I'm not saying it's completely true, but I believe it's in line with what I've been saying, that man's being used remotely and we're just playing out the script. Just like we build SimCity and we build these video games called Minecraft, that's the micro. That's our micro. We're the micro to the energies outside of our reality that we don't understand. We don't understand. We're the micro to that. And we all have blueprints. And if you believe in the Akashic Records, I have a friend that reads Akashic Records. She's super busy right now. I've given her a lot of business. Her name's TN. But she'll open up the Akashic Records for you. She does like this special prayer when she does a reading for you. And she'll tell you who you were connected to in past lives. How's that possible? How would that be possible if we're in control of anything? She can read the past because it's the infinity loop. That's what it is. We're living in this infinity loop. We're stuck inside the hourglass. The sands of time are running down. There's only so much time per period, per year, based upon the zodiac signs. Now we get into astrology. And this is a game that we're playing. The game resets and then it starts over again. New age comes in. And right now, a lot of astrologers, including myself, believe that we're in the age of Aquarius. Which is about I know thyself. And the game is what I believe to be, it's now starting a new cycle, a new game has started, or is about to start. Because I believe the sands of time have all run out and the hourglass has to be flipped over. And then a new set of circumstances get moved into this game called life. I got a decode coming out called The Game of Life. And I believe that that's what we're playing, folks. I've shown this over and over, is that we're playing the game of life. And, I've got another decode coming out on Gandhi. You know who Gandhi is, right? He was an attorney, studied in India. Gandhi. Was Gandhi a good guy? Or was he a bad guy? If in relations to the good guy, bad guy. Like, okay, since we've been on this topic, we could say, are the Jesuits good guys or bad guys? Well, considerably they're labeled bad guys. On the opposite end, you have the good guys. Superhero and villain, right? If you don't have the villain, you don't have the superhero. That's how this game works. But anyway, Gandhi would be a good guy. Well, I've completely decoded his life, folks. Birthday, his timestamp, his footprint in the sine and cosine waves and trigonometry and pi. And guess what? His life was completely coded and rigged. His design, it was as if whatever created this reality was like, okay, I'm going to code this character. His name's going to be Gandhi. That's what his parents are going to name him. And he's going to be this attorney. And he's going to bring justice to the world. And he's going to make a huge mark in the world to make the world a better place. That's how we're going to code him. The macro's doing this. And that's what happened. And Gandhi incarnates into this life, into this game. He makes his mark on the world. And then he passes on. But clearly, folks, Gandhi was a good guy. I decoded the Dalai Lama. Good guy or bad guy? I guess that's all based on perspective. I decoded the Dalai freaking Lama, which goes right back to the first Dalai Lama. Guess what my findings were on there? The Dalai Lama is being used to play out his code, to play out his part. It's part of his script. You go right to the Akashic Records and you realize, like my friend Tien who reads the Akashic Records, she'll tell you what she believes. Her and I differ a little bit, but she says you decided to come here and your life is not your own. Your life's completely scripted. You're put into this game by design. She believes that you knew you were going to come here and live out your part. In her examples, she thinks, like, I decided to come here and choose my family and choose my circumstances, and I have to play off my karma from a past life. That's what she believes. Which it may be possible, that may be the truth. But no matter which way you slice or dice it, you're still being used to play out your avatar. And it was decided before you ever came out of your mother's womb. So those people that join organizations that I'm separate them into Star Wars. you got Team Darth Vader and Team Yoda. Good cop, bad cop. Superhero and villain. In your body, in the micro, in your body, who would be the superhero? Your white blood cells. That would be Yoda, Team Yoda. Who would be Darth Vader? Well, it would be the bacteria and the viruses and the things that bring your immune system down to challenge you. That'd be the micro. Bringing biology into this now, folks. Bringing health and wellness into this world of decoding. Another layer. And you can clearly see your body does not need you to do anything. It does. I mean, you obviously need to give the nutrients to your body, but it does what it needs to do. It functions based upon programming. Its code has a very specific design to it. So you got Team Darth Vader and Team Yoda working in your body. And then on the outside, in the macro world, in this 3D reality, you have Darth Vaders and Yodas running around. Since we've been on the topic, we can say the Jesuits are the Darth Vaders. And I saw a comment, Zach, saying he's had channels revoked, removed. Yeah, because you're threatening the existence of those Darth Vaders. Of course. Anytime you threaten something, they're going to come after you and be like, you ain't threatening me. When you threaten something on this world stage, it's probably going to fight back, which is why you're getting channels deleted. So that's a no-brainer. So I'm not saying, like I said, you go right back to like, okay, you're pointing out that these organizations are doing specific things. Absolutely. I'm not saying that's not truth. But you see, when you go even farther out from the micro, if this world is the macro is controlling the micro. We're coded. Our world is coded by something called the macro. So when Steven Spielberg came out with the movie Star Wars, and he casted the guy to play Darth Vader, and he casted the guy to play Yoda and Luke Skywalker and Han Solo and the good guys versus Chewbacca and all those guys, I can decode all that. So I should do Star Wars. Show you the people that played all the characters, just like I did Lucifer. I showed in Lucifer Part 2, when I decoded the Netflix show. I decoded Lucifer. His real name is Thomas, by the way. In real life, Thomas John Ellis. And Jesus had a twin brother named Thomas. They actually have Jesus in that show, Lucifer. And Thomas John Ellis, the actor that played Lucifer, his birth card on November 17th is the 3 clubs card. The 3 clubs card is the 16th card in the deck. The word hell equals 16. Lucifer's known as the Lord of Hell. Jerry Bruckheimer, the producer of that show, also has the 3 of clubs card, which is the hell card. How about that? So you think Jerry Bruckheimer sat down and chose Thomas John Ellis because his birthday was on November 17th, because they knew that his name was Thomas, and it had to be that flip of Jesus to be Lucifer? And then you can add in, and then you bring in his mother, who played his mom, and you can look at her card and her birthday. And then you'd have to add her layer in there, and consciously man won't have to do that. Then you'd have to add in his father, because the divine, the guy that casted to play his father, they casted this guy to play it. And then he's got a birthday. And I put his birthday in there and I showed you his decode. And then you add Amenadiel, his brother. You add in that card. And you have to add in his code. Then you have to find out when the show debuted, how long it ran for, how many seasons. All of these layers, folks, of this show. There's so, and then all the hidden symbology in the show. I've watched plenty of episodes. Plenty of it. It's interesting because I don't remember what season it was. But one of the seasons in Lucifer, In that show, Lucifer is fighting crime in Los Angeles, comes up from hell, and he's fighting crime on earth. In one of the episodes, I don't remember which one it was, but he ends up saying that the I am that I am, the fire that's talking, that was me. That's what he's claiming in that show. So whoever wrote the screenplay for that, again, is the person that wrote the screenplay, all the writers of that show, are they actually consciously writing that? Or are they being instructed to write it through something controlling their mind? Because again, you know what theology will tell you? Theology will tell you that man was divinely inspired to write the Bible. So that would indicate clearly that man didn't write the Bible. Man was used to write the Bible. So if man was used to write the Bible, who used men? Well, certainly they didn't mean an organization like the Roman Catholic Church. They're talking about the divine. The divine is macro, we're the micro. So in essence, what you're seeing, folks, is you're seeing supporting evidence showing that theology in the Bible was divinely inspired by whatever created this reality. And guess what? It's doing it through movies and music. And I've shown it in countless videos now, especially with this Lucifer one. This Lucifer, if you haven't seen my decode on Lucifer Part 2, folks, I want to just, let me see, hold on. Let me see if I can knock me down and let me get me smaller here. Hang on, folks. There we go. Whoops. Gotta move me up. Hang on, folks. Okay. Let me get my capture display. No, hold on, folks. I'm trying to get this figured out here. Hold on. I want to show you this loose. There we go. Okay. So let me just go through this, and I'm not going to obviously turn the volume up, but let me show you what I'm talking about and what would have to go into this whole entire construct called the show Lucifer. Okay? So this guy right here starts off with this. This guy right here is the guy they chose to play the father of Lucifer, who would be the father of Jesus as well. Because Jesus and Lucifer are brothers. Thomas, which is why they casted this guy Thomas John Ellis to play. So nonetheless, this is the guy playing God. And his name's Timothy Michael Oldmanson. And that equals the number 89 in what I believe to be the most accurate numerology cipher on the planet, Chaldean, especially for titles and names. It's an 89. 89 is a prime Fibonacci number. It's a very special number. It's the 24th prime number. How many what is the 24? It's the X chromosome. It's also the 4 fixed signs of astrology because that's what the X represents. But not only is it the 24th prime number, but it's the 11th Fibonacci number. And we know through this decoding is Yaldabaoth is 89, folks. So what this code is expressing, or what it wants you to see, is that Timothy Michael Oldmanson, who played the father of Lucifer, is Yaldabaoth. And again, this is what the creators of the show would have to do. They'd have to sit down and not only cast this guy, they have to choose this dude, making sure his name comes out to 89 because it's the 24th prime number, 11th Fibonacci number, and it's tied to Yaldabaoth being 89. Now, could they have fudged on his birth name? Maybe. But I did some research on it, and that's what I found with this guy. The subtleties here, it's 22 letters. What's 22? It's called titanium. What is titanium? It's Saturn's moon, Titan. And what is titanium, folks? Well, see, when you go and syncretize the elements on the periodic table, which not many decoders are using, but there it is. There's the 47. 47, and then when you go to, let me get these ciphers out of the way here. Just use one. One cipher makes it harder. There it is, folks. It's 47, tetragrammaton. And then if you look at the English, what does the 166 mean? What does the 66 mean? It's the higher octave of the 66. 66 books of the Bible. This is what runs the 66, tetragrammaton, which the Greeks coined that in the New Testament, 47. Which is linked to this guy's total letters, and this is a subtlety, but can't leave that out. So you have this guy playing his father, and then you have this lady right here playing his mother, Trisha Janin Helfer. I think she's a Canadian actress. Look at what hers equals. 58. 58's tied to nickel. Nickel has an atomic weight of 58. What's the protons of nickel? 28. 28 is located at the numerology of Lucifer. Her last name is 28, Lucifer. So again, you see all these moving parts that man would have to go in to cast these people, to play them, and they would not only have to use numerology, folks, but they'd have to bring in the periodic table as well to make sure all this stuff fits. Otherwise, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. Let me see if I can find some more stuff for you. Here's the original spelling of Lucifer in the Old Testament, found at Ezekiel 14 verses 12. The only mention of this character's name, by the way. It was never Lucifer, it was Hyll, hell, which is very fitting. That equals the number 39. And then you see, when you do the decodes of all this stuff, this is Isaiah 14 verses 12. And you realize that when you decode the entire verse, which I think I did in the previous one, trying to find out where this is, so I don't have to keep. But here's Isaiah 14 verses 12, folks. The total numerology is a 38. 38, of course, is tied to that Super Bowl. But nonetheless, here are the two cards in the tarot. So again, the screenwriters, the producers, the directors of the show would also have to add in this scripture from theology, as well as the tarot cards into this show to make everything fit the way I'm showing it to be fitted. And the tarot, the temperance card is the card of duality, 3.14, going down into time, because, it's the time god. And then 14 verses 12 is the hangman, going down in the upside down world. That's what this means, folks. So you just have another layer on top of another layer on top of another layer. Here's another prime example. Thomas John Ellis, the guy they casted for Lucifer, born on November 17th. The November 17th card is that 3 clubs card right there, which is the 16th card in the deck. And you notice that the word hell equals 16. Typically Lucifer is known as the character that rules hell. 16. That's his card, folks. And then if we add another layer in the tarot, which is because these came first, these came second, you have the 3 clubs card, which means the 3 wands, which is the 3 of clubs. This is the 24th card in the deck. This is the X chromosomes, 24, which is leaning right back to his father and Yaldabaoth. So as you can clearly see, folks, this is just one of many. This decode here, when I did all of this work here, man, it's amazing, because you realize that there's no way man could ever code this kind of stuff. It would not be possible. The story of the Nephilim is in there, the fallen angels. It's part of the code. And using my discovery called alchemology, where you take numerology, bring it into alchemy, and then add all this stuff up. It links to Genesis 6 verses 4, talking about the Nephilim, linked to the GD element. The 153 is the shape or the measurement of the Vesica Piscis, which is what we're all linked to, which is where the NFL football got its shape from. The 153 is tied to the fish that Jesus caught with the apostles in theology. So how do all these things fit in like this? Man's certainly not coding this, folks, because we're using Hebrew. Like I said, every time we end up bringing in another layer, you end up making it that much more complicated. And to me, it's ironclad that man could never code this kind of stuff. It would not be possible. They would never get anything. You'd never get anything done to sit down and try to code all this kind of stuff. Here's another example. Lucifer equals 28. 28 in the string of pi occupies 2 digits. Not only the 33rd, but also the 34th. Not only 33rd, but 34th, linking to Devil's Copper. There's his father. Trying to find some other nuggets, but there's, the letter X in the Hebrew. Then you bring in, more alphabets and different languages and linguistics, folks. And you realize that, man could never code this kind of stuff. Here's the mother and father of Lucifer right here. And of course, Jesus. Here's another perfect example of what would go into casting these actors and actresses on certain dates, picking their birthdays, and then you'd have to bring their cards of illumination into that. It's just, there's way too many moving parts. So here's Timothy Michael Odmanson playing the divine, playing God in this case, being the father of, or the architect of the universe, and then his wife, Trisha Jane and Helfer, Lucifer's mother. Look at what their name equals in numerology together. 147, that's the higher octave of the 47. 47 is what? 47 is the tetragrammaton. It's the higher octave of that. And then their 2 last names is yin yang. How about that? But see, people think man's coding this. No way. Not possible. Man is just carrying out the blueprint. They're not in control of the blueprint. Here's a perfect example of expanding on that knowledge, folks. Here's the guy they played, the guy they casted for God, Timothy. But now we're using the English. It's the number 276 in the English. When you link that to the element on the periodic table that has the weight of 276, it's this element here, the 109th. And 109 is the 29th prime number linked to Yaldabaoth. So you see how you can just, when you link these, so see folks, if you go by the methodology of decoders out there thinking that man's doing this organically, and again, I'm not pointing fingers, I'm just saying in a general sense, you would have the people that are running Hollywood, that are in control of the movies and the producers and all that, they would all have to be in on this. This guy would have to be in on it. They'd have to cast this guy knowing not only his name equaling 276 in the English, but also having it come out to the number 89 in Chaldean to not only match Yaldabaoth in the English, but matching the 29 through the prime numbers of the 109, because his name is 276 with this bridge, this element being the 109th element on the periodic table called metnerium. So you can clearly see, folks, that every time I add another numerology cipher, it just proves that man could never code this. It's just way too complicated. It's way too complicated for man to ever do that, folks. Here's another example. This guy being born on July 29th. His wife, that plays his wife, Lucifer's mother, she was born on April 11th. You take 29 and 11 and you bring the elements on the periodic table. 29 is copper, matching this guy's birthday, 29. Then you take her birthday on the 11th. She's sodium. What's 29 plus 11? It's called zirconium. Zirconium has the most abundant weight of 89. What's 89? It's the Gnostic demiurge that I feel is running this reality, the puppet master. Yaldabaoth. I showed this clearly in my decode of the Vatican that I just released the other day. That's what's running religion. That's what's running sports. That's what's running movies. That's why the beetles, this is the scarab beetle linked to zirconium. It's right here, folks. See, this is the Royal Society of Chemistry. We have to add this layer in now too. Here's another layer that man would have to add in to prove that man's coding this. Because then all these layers, see all these pictures? They chose all these photographs. Look at that. That's the scarab beetle, meaning death and regeneration. What would Yaldabaoth indicate? The operator and owner of duality? Death and regeneration. It runs the game. So clearly you can see, folks, this decode that I came out with, it completely blew my mind. Here's another example. How do you explain this? You think man's controlling this? Some people think man's doing this, folks. I don't know where your logic's at, honestly. This guy, his father, here's the son. The two guys they casted to play these characters, Lucifer and his father, that's up in heaven. July 29th, November 17th. Look at the timestamp. This guy was born in 1969. He was born in 1978. It's a span of 3,398 days. Look how many months and days that is, folks. 111 months and 19 days. Do you see what I'm seeing right there? How could man ever code? This is another layer we have to add in to our decoding. Folks, it's not possible, folks. So if this is not possible for man to code, why would anybody logically think that man's coding all the events on the world stage? It's not just not possible, folks. It's not. Here's Chloe Decker, Lucifer's girlfriend in the show. He goes by Lucifer Morningstar. Chloe Decker's what she goes by. Look at the outcomes they get. 109 is linked to the 29, linked to Yaldabaoth. 311 is linked to the 64th prime number, linked to the GD element, the gadolinium. That's the GD element. So I'm not just using one cipher. When you add on another one, it makes it even more complicated. Just to prove. This is ironclad for me, folks. This is why I stand by my research. And I realize everybody's playing out their part. Here's another one. This is Chloe Decker, Lucifer's girlfriend. This is her real birth name now. Lauren Christine Germain equals the number 71. What's the 71st element? Lutetium. Lucifer. Manly P. Hall, The Secret Teachings of All Ages. You know what he says in his book? Lucifer's numbers are 7, 4, 1. Now, does that mean that Manly P. Hall is right? No. But when you look at this element and you can clearly see that Lu is kind of like Lucifer or Lucy, and this is his girlfriend they casted to play her real birth name, and it's a link to this element and his numbers. Excuse me. But people think man's coding this. Folks, it's not possible. Not at this level, not with all these layers. So here's the last one I'm going to show. Here's Lucifer, and then they casted his brother, the good guy, Amenadiel, goes by David. Remember, Jesus said he's the offspring of David? David Bryan Woodside. David Bryan Woodside's birthday, July 25th. That's the 3 clubs. Thomas John Ellis, November 17th, 3 clubs. Just to be really transparent, July 25th, go to my little thing. Here's the chart. There's July. You go down to 25. There it is, 3 clubs. Thomas John Ellis is November 17th. There's November. We got on to the number 17. There it is, 3 clubs. So folks, what you have essentially is you have 2 brothers having the same birth card in real life, being brothers in a show that's not even real, and not only having the same birth card, but there's the 33. How's that possible, folks? How is this possible? Do you know how many moving parts go into just what I'm showing you here? It's just not possible, folks, to be able to sit here and say that man is controlling that. It's just not possible, folks, to ever think man could ever control that, folks. It's not possible. So I think I'm going to end this transmission because, again, you know, Zach keeps coming in with his comments, which is totally fine. Zach, you'll get it eventually. You'll get it. or you'll just be in denial of it. But that's okay. You keep doing what you're doing. You're exposing and placing the blame on those that maybe deserve to get the blame placed on them. I mean, I decoded Bill Gates. I showed you what he was all about. I decoded the Georgia Guidestones. I showed you what that was all about. And I clearly showed that those people playing out their parts, they're doing their job, but they're not in control of their job. They're just puppets on a string. So I'm clearly not insinuating that they're not the ones that are acting out the part, but I can definitely clearly indicate to all of you that they're not in control of their part. They're just acting out their part. And I really, honestly, folks, just showing you what I just showed you with that show, Lucifer. Please go watch that show, Lucifer. Showing what I just showed you, how else are you to describe that? And you know, when you get to the level of being able to see all these symbols and what goes into a TV show and a movie, and you see all these symbols in the background, and like I said, when you see stuff spray painted on a wall, but you can see it, you can see the code, and you know what it means, and you know that man didn't purposely put it there. Like they chose. Like I showed you, I'm watching the show 24, and there's something spray painted on the wall they chose to use for that building in this scene. So they would have to say, okay, we have to find a building with something spray paint. We're going to spray paint something on that building when you can clearly see it's been there forever. But when you observe that code and you see it and you know what it means, you clearly can put to rest that man's doing anything. Man is just being used. I don't, and I'm going to stand by that, folks. I'm going to continue to put out more videos and continually putting out my truth. And I'm not going to take any more phone calls. I'm not here to debate anymore. It's not worth my energy, honestly. I'll take all the energy you can give me. What I'm seeing here, I really don't. If you don't want to agree with me, it's totally fine. And I'm talking to you, Zach, because you've been a main highlight of this transmission, and I appreciate you, dude. I appreciate your work, man. I can be authentic with you and be my genuine self. And again, apologize to you if I said something negative about you. I'm sorry. You know, I'm human. But I can clearly come on here and be a very authentic human being and apologize to you and everybody else that I may have put down. And, you know, again, when I say I don't believe there's any mockery going on, I'm not pointing the finger at any one person. I'm just speaking in a generalized sense. But I stand by my research, and I am not going to fudge from that unless something earth-shattering were to change what I've been shown through my decoding. And again, folks, it's not even a matter of just decoding the world. I've decoded myself, and I can tell you clearly I'm being used. And I'm not being controlled by any energy outside of myself called the Jesuits or the Masons. I'm not involved with any secret society. I don't belong to any of those. I'm not involved in any cults. I'm not worshiping any demons. I'm not invoking anything. I'm not doing any rituals. I'm not doing any of that. But my life's completely coded and scripted. And because I'm not involved in any organizations, because I'm not involved in any mystery schools, secret schools, because I'm not being run by any of those, or I'm not involved in any of those, how else are you to explain how my life is coded the way it is? How's that possible? I'm here to make a difference in the world. I'm an Aquarian. I mean, I'm here to show you my truth, and I know my destiny and all that kind of stuff, but I'm clearly not here to force anything upon anybody in my agenda. But I'm going to continue to make my videos, and I'll continue to build my following, and the people that don't like it, that's all good. Like I said in my videos, these are my opinions and truths. Not everybody's going to agree with what I have to say. There's my friend Bruco. Thanks for joining, brother. And he's got a great channel. If you haven't been following Bruco, Bruko, I mentioned him earlier in the broadcast. He's got a lot of he decodes mainly The Simpsons. But folks, go watch the decode on that episode of him decoding The Simpsons, and it's clearly showing you that man is not controlling this reality. And I think The Simpsons have really predicted a lot of things. How's that possible? How's The Simpsons predicting all these things that are coming true? I mean, I included Matt Groening in my How to Decode Yourself video. I used him as the example. So let me get to some of these comments before I end this transmission. Logan routinely brings up his work is better than mine. Well, Zach, guess what? I think my work is better than yours, but that's just my opinion. But I mean, that's just me being my ego, right? I mean, we all have an ego. Why do I think my work is better? Because it's more advanced in my eyes. I'm not saying, well, I should say, let me take that back. Is my work better than Zach's? No, it's not. My work is my work. I am that I am. How about that? So if I said that, I'm going to retract that statement, and I'm going to clearly tell all of you, since Zach's been the highlight of this, and he's continually pushing out his expressions, which is totally fine. So Zach saying The Simpsons announced the 33rd episode. Yeah, so Zach, every time you end up connecting the dots with more numbers, you put yourself in a bigger hole. Because every time you add on another layer, you end up sealing the door on man ever being able to control this. Too many moving parts. So yeah, it is all organic. Completely all organic, folks. And I will continue to shout from the rooftops that it's completely organic. I'm not giving any hall passes or free passes to any of the organizations out there that are doing their jobs, whether you like it or not, if they're Team Darth Vader or Team Yoda, you know. They're doing their job. Does it excuse them? No. If there is such a thing as karma through this game of life, which I don't think we're in control of, they'll end up having to pay for their karma. And again, you know, the reason why channels get deleted is because you end up encroaching on or threatening organizations. No one wants to look bad. This whole world, and I talked about this earlier in this whole broadcast, this entire world that we live in is called the art of looking good. No one wants to look bad. And if you end up threatening any kind of entity on the world stage, if they're a predator, they're going to attack you. They're going to attack you. So of course, if you're going to go out there and say the Jesuits are doing this and doing that, and you're continually pointing your finger and doing all that stuff, you're threatening their existence. What do you think they're going to do? They're going to bite back. So of course, I completely understand how that works, of having channels deleted. But again, you know, listen, do your job. And again, folks, if I stepped on your toes, if I said something negative, I'm going to be the better man right here. And I'm going to say, I'm sorry. I was wrong. Let's just clear the air. But again, folks, the arguing going on, it's crazy. Again, everybody's right. Everybody living today is right. That's why they're doing what they want to do. And since we're talking about the Jesuits, why are they doing what they want to do? Why are they doing the things they're doing? Because they believe they're right. And then they believe they're right, you believe you're right. And then what you have to realize is it's a macro to the micro. So we all have handlers. Jesuits have handlers, by the way. You can call it the devil. The devil made me do it. You've heard that plenty of times. Folks, just go study possession. Go study exorcism. Go study that. If you have never studied that, I have. I've studied it. I've studied black magic. I've studied people that do rituals and seances and they conjure up stuff. If you haven't studied black magic and gone down that hole, you're missing a big part of everything and how it works. When you get down the hole, when you get really deep down the hole, folks, you realize we don't know. We know absolutely nothing. We know absolutely nothing. So again, folks, I mean, Zach's still at it. I commend you on your determination, Zach. I really do. I think that's one of your assets. You're great at connecting numbers. You have a lot of knowledge. But again, the more you spit out your knowledge, the more you realize what is the 55, that secret destroyer. And the more you continually connect the links, the more you're sinking yourself in a hole, because man could never code all this kind of stuff. It's just, this is not possible. There's too many moving parts, especially again, when you get into the movies and music and I've decoded Pink Floyd and Michael Jackson and Prince and Led Zeppelin. What do you think Led Zeppelin has anything to do with the Jesuits? Maybe. But when you go down the black hole of black magic, when you understand really how magic works, when you truly understand how magic works, and you go down that really, really dark hole. Like I said, I've followed these groups, man, E.A. Coetting and Become a Living God, and these guys are all about summoning and attaching themselves to Lucifer and Lucifuge and Baal and Moloch and all these entities. And their lives end up changing and something happens. And then you get into exorcisms and you get into, the Vatican going out there, or the Catholic Church primarily doing exorcisms. Go study that stuff. Tell me that is controlled by man. That's all organic, folks. We're playing out this game. It's called life, and man is not in control of it. And that's all I got to say on that, folks. And I've proven it and supported it over and over and over 100 plus videos and counting. And I'm going to continue putting it out until I feel like it's not necessary anymore. And I'm not. I'm not here to force your hand on believing what I believe. You're either going to accept it or reject it. And that's just the way it works. So anyway, folks, this is just kind of getting out of hand, man. This transmission. But nonetheless, folks, I appreciate each and every one of you tonight. And again, if you're interested in a reading, you can reach me at decodeyourreality@gmail.com. Send me an email. I appreciate your all of your time tonight and all of your comments, even if you believe or don't believe what I'm saying, even if you have your own truth. Again, make the truth your own, folks. That's what I'm going to say. And remember, pay attention to what you give your gold currency to, if you can be on that conscious level. And life's a big contradiction. I guess that's probably the biggest takeaway that I could say on all accounts, is that life is the biggest, fattest contradiction that we all could ever live through, because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make any sense at all. So, folks, thank you very much for your donations, your continued support. And Zach, thanks for calling in, sharing your opinions. Even though I don't agree, it's all good. But anyway, folks, that's all I got for today. My name is Logan. This is Decode Your Reality, and I thank each and every one of you for watching. Till next time, folks.